And we're back. Oh, it's been a while. We're still in Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Tal, and welcome back to another installment of Superman Summer, that old summer of Superman. I'm joined again with Chaos. Chaos, welcome back.
Purple Simpson. Hi everyone, I'm back.
Purple Homer Simpson. We can't escape him.
Me? Yes, you.
I thought it was going to be Smurf related, to be honest.
I mean, they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, sure.
If you really think about it.
Sure, yeah. Purple Homer.
I mean, there's like this
Pup
racial. Smurf. There's, I mean, with Smurfs, you have like this racial segmenting between blue Smurfs and white Smurfs.
Right.
Obviously, there's you have that racial difference between yellow Simpsons and purple Simpsons.
That's true. Those yellow imperialists. Wait a minute. Anyway, we're back. Chaos. We got more Superman Summer to go through. This time, I feel like, you know what? It's been a while since we talked about some animated Superman projects. We've been doing a lot of, live action, the good kind of medium. I think it's time we talk about some baby shows for a change.
Right.
Yeah.
The baby shit. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, it's been a week since I've last recorded with you. One may even say it's been a while since I've had my adventures with you.
That reminds me of a certain show. Titans. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that one Smurf show that's going on Nickelodeon right now. I haven't watched it yet, though. I mean, it's probably pretty good.
All right, enough with the Smurf maxing. It's Superman maxing time.
Okay, fine. My Adventures with Superman, baby.
Yeah, so this is a show I've obviously for a while now, you've been obsessing over this. I feel like for years at this point, you've talked about it in great lengths, and even just within Superman Summer, the Summer of Superman, you've brought it up multiple times, like, hey, I fucking love this show. And I go, cool, right. Haven't seen it yet. But things are different now. I watched through both seasons, because right now, at the time of us recording, there's only 2 seasons of the show. A third one's on the way, as far as I know, but we're just here to talk about the first 2. Because that's all we have to talk about with them. So why don't you start things off with your history with My Adventures of Superman? I'm sure there's great lengths to this history.
Yeah. Okay. So, obviously the show had first aired back in like 2023, so it's been like 2 years of experience. But in that 2 years, which even technically goes back to 2022, there's a lot of lore that comes with this. First off, you have 2021 where it was first revealed, and I was just getting into Superman, so I'm like, oh, hey, I'm really excited for this. This is going to be cool. And then you flash forward to 2022, not much news has come out about the show, and on top of that, that was also, the time when WB was axing and selling off a bunch of their streaming originals just for tax write-offs, with Batgirl being one of them. It was very worrying for a lot of people if stuff like My Adventures with Superman or Blue Beetle was going to join those ranks.
Right.
Thankfully, they didn't. They a lot of those projects got written off for multiple reasons. With Batgirl, it was because they were ashamed of it. The guys who made Justice League were ashamed with it.
R.I.P. Batgirl. We hardly knew ye.
Yep. And then you go forward to 2023, where I was up until its release, I was actually really damn invested in this show. I really liked the trailers. A lot of the concept art looked really cool. A lot of the plot synopses got me hooked. And before it was airing, I finally watched Superman the Animated Series for the first time. But I'd rather put that aside, since I was literally bum rushing through the show, so I just didn't appreciate the show at all.
Mm.
So, um, we can talk more about that later. But then, after I was disappointed with SDAS at first, mind you, I went into MAWS with a fresher mind, and I loved every single episode as it just kept on airing. Talking about it with one of my friend groups throughout the summer as it was airing was genuinely one of my favorite experiences of this decade so far, especially since this was leading up to my very last school year. And Ma season two actually closed out that school year because they were airing pretty close to each other. There was, however, one there was a roadblock with enjoying it though. And I probably should have asked first, but before I start telling that story, are you fine with me listing names or do we want to keep it a little anonymous here?
I think we should keep it anonymous because,
Okay,
the worst thing
yeah.
we can do is give them any more attention.
Right. So I'll just use placeholder names then for now. So there's two players called uh Lil Xan and Bruno, because we don't talk about Bruno. Okay, so when I was first watching My Adventures with Superman, um, Bruno saw the first episodes right after I did, and they did not like those. And when I tried getting them back into the show, I had a lot of arguments with them because, to be frank, a lot of Bruno's arguments towards the show were very, very, very bad. A lot of them were deleted, but I still got some of them archived, and I even have a lot in memory. And it was around this time that, during the wait for season two, I ended up meeting someone else who I had my own bad experiences with. One might even say you can call them a phantom of sorts, but I got that cleared up, and as a responsible adult, I don't let my experiences with bad people affect my experiences with the show because, okay, well, I'm gonna cut the shit real
Mhm.
quick. I love this show.
Right.
Many of the people that I talk with in the fandom are some of the nicest people that I've ever met, and so I'll acknowledge it. But the real funny part, comes in with the watch parties that Bruno and Lil Xan were doing, where with season one, the Phantom haunted their voice chats and couldn't even muster up a single defense for the show while claiming to love it. It was really funny hearing about that.
Hmm.
But also, then you cut forward to season two, where they were hosting their own watch parties, which I decided to avoid only just to come in at the last moment to listen to their commentary to see what they had to say. And with like episode five came out, Little Xan just completely gave up on the show. With Bruno, uh they pushed forward without any of us in voice chat with them, just completely by themselves, just just dedicating themselves to watching the show that they hate and came out hating. And the funniest part of all this is that Bruno Bruno said that season two was worse than Man of Steel. The even funnier part, which I'm sure is even funnier to you, is that even when season one first aired, they couldn't tell if they hated it more than Superman 3 or not.
Oh, jeez. I mean, look, if those are your thought processes with the show, fine. Like, I don't think it's on. I don't think it's like weird to hate the show. I think there are aspects you can certainly criticize with it, but yeah, from the sounds of it, it didn't sound like this was, a very measured take on the show, and that's where your
Right.
issues come in more so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because it's like I honestly don't mind if people don't like this show. Because I have my own issues with it,
Right.
obviously, and I think that there are elements to it that don't appeal to everyone, which we can talk about later. But I think it's in like the same boat as like a lot of other popular shows of this popular fandom shows, as I like to call them sometimes, like Steven Universe or
Mm,
She-Ra, where a lot of
mm,
the criticisms come off as very bad faith, and it's because of trying to apply moral arguments to them.
right.
And in some cases, we call them Mahler arguments. Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, that
it's
is
like sometimes when you watch these shows, it's hard being a fan, even though the fandom is pretty sizable. But
right. I mean, in my experience, you're always going to come across bad aspects of any given fandom. There's no such thing as the perfect fandom in my experience, just because the internet just draws in some of the most crazy and narcissistic people. Um, but that doesn't mean that that then reflects on the actual media itself. I think you do need to separate the fandom from the media in order to judge it fairly.
right, because it's like there's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of good media out there with uh terrible fandoms,
Mm-hmm.
and with my own experience, I think a lot of the people in this fandom are super nice, and a lot of the showrunners are actually supportive of what the fandom does, and their more positive aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if speaking of the showrunners, about time we actually get into the show itself, right?
Mm.
I would say, of the two seasons, season one of My Adventures with Superman is a lot more consistent than season two.
Yeah.
But it's as a whole, I think it just comes off as an experience that I really love, but for the most part is just solid and not shooting as much to the high stars as season two does.
Right.
I will say it does have a genuinely fantastic first episode where we literally the first scene is Clark on the farm learning that he has powers for the first time after saving a life, and it truly one of my favorite Superman fight scenes, like right off the bat. Like, not only is it just really whimsical with seeing Clark as a kid just being really amazed by this and the beautiful sunset backdrop, but also the music, man. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, so my thing with this show is that, and I think this is kind of apparent within the first episode, is it's certainly a very different interpretation of Superman. Right off the bat,
Right.
which is weird getting into it. And I feel like that is one of those take it or leave it aspects of the show. Like, if you seriously can't get into the style of the show, you're not going to have a good time watching the entire thing, which is what happened with your friend there, where it's like, oh, I'm just hate watching the rest of the show, which is insanity. Hate watching a movie is one thing. Hate watching an entire TV show, that's another thing entirely, where it's like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just a massive time
right.
waster. And it's like, I will admit, I haven't been the most fair to shows before because I haven't seen them all the way through. But I learned something very particular from the Nut Shack, which is if you hate something, don't try to watch every single episode, especially if you hate it that much. It's
Yeah.
not worth it.
I was so
But
miserable watching through the Star Wars Kenobi show that when the Acolyte started coming out, I was like, you know what? There's more important things in life than watching terrible Star Wars shows. It's like,
yeah,
oh god, there's more important things in life. Let me actually go outside and touch some grass instead than of watching the Acolyte. So, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But going back to like the different aspect of the show,
Hmm.
another thing that I also did when when all the episodes were coming out and when during the wait times for each of them, I watched the interviews that Josie Campbell, one of the showrunners for the show and producers, had with other people, and she made it explicitly clear that one of the rules or sort of embargoes for the show is having to do a lot of stuff and characters differently because
Mm.
a lot even if Superman doesn't have as many adaptations or isn't as popular as Batman anymore right now, a lot of people still know like the whole backstory of Superman, like the whole deal. We've learned that stuff from the Donner movies, from the other TV shows, from a ton of other adaptations and comics. Pretty much everyone knows it. So
Yes.
why not actually push these creatives to do something new with the IP instead of just retreading the same ground that Superman the animated series does, which to be honest, I think is a mindset that has helped me out a lot. I
Yeah.
think some people can view this as like, oh, it's just being different for the sake of being different, which I think on paper is like a fair criticism, but I think what you need to look at is that okay, if it's just being different for the sake of being different, should also consider if it's better or just as good as what's been done before.
Absolutely. Well, because that's the other thing too is like, okay, we're doing something different, but how different can we push this until it's unrecognizable as that thing, you know?
Right. And with this show, the main difference that it does that I was talking about with uh Little Clark is that in the first episodes especially, Clark is just becoming a superhero. He has no idea about his Kryptonian heritage because of the language barrier between him and his father AI.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I think I remember hearing from one interview, but it's like really interesting that okay, you're actually doing something with the immigrant allegory of the character that I've talked about a lot before, and you're doing something actually relatable and appropriate with it, where when Clark finally does meet his birth parent, I when Clark finally does meet his birth parent, he doesn't know how to interact with them. He can only resort to making assumptions about him and what's been going on with Krypton. He doesn't have much to work with. So for most of the show, he's just as much in the dark as the rest of the audience, which I really like.
Well, as much as
And I,
in the dark
yeah,
as the rest of the audience who don't know anything about Superman, because that was one of the weird things with getting through this show. And I mean, this is not inherently the show's fault. This is the fault of many remakes and reimaginings of shows. Is that you're going to be lifting elements that are applicable to this story and characters. So I know immediately what Krypton is, who Jor-El is in relation to Superman, and so them like kind of taking their time and revealing all this stuff, for me, I'm just like, I know where this is going, and it was a little frustrating to kind of like wait for that when I already know what the final conclusion is going to be. But with that said, if you're coming into this completely blind, you have no idea what a Superman is, I guess it delivers that stuff just fine.
right. And even then, there's other twists later on in the series, which I can get into later. But basically, I was even gonna say with like this whole angle between Superman and his dad, this was kind of like I was talking about with uh John Byrne before on some of the earlier episodes and his xenophobia, where he specifically quoted that immigrants who want to meet or find their birth parents are his words, ungrateful little shits, which is which I think is why a lot of people are like really skeptical of how Superman is handled, as well as the allegory, because it's not hard to go in the really insensitive direction that John Byrne took. Which, to be fair, this show has openly admitted to taking inspiration from John Byrne's Man of Steel origin book, but I think that this show manages to use a lot of its inspiration while fixing what didn't work.
Sure.
So,
The whole language
yeah,
barrier thing is an interesting aspect where I'm like, oh yeah, you know, English, because they just have Kryptonians speaking English in other adaptations because it's like, well, it's a sci-fi movie. You can just have these aliens speak English, and you're like, yeah, sure, why not? But here it's like, oh well, yeah, realistically, they probably wouldn't have the exact same language that we have on Earth. So it's like,
right.
kind of a neat aspect. I will say that kind of throws a wrench in the fact that Kara and Brainiac in season 2 speak English, but you know what? Maybe let's not worry about that, I guess.
Let's not worry about that. Yeah.
Whatever, fine, whatever.
Whoopsies. So, okay. So like going back to this, another aspect that the showrunners were inspired by with John Byrne's work was with Lois, mainly how she's designed with the short hair. But yeah, pretty early on in the first episode, we get introduced to our main trio for the show: Clark Kent, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen. And I think it's fair with like talking about these episodes, we go into each of these three characters individually because they are very important to the rest of the show.
Yeah, they are very much the show. Like, these are the three characters you spend the most time with.
Right. So the first one that we obviously met and already talked about a fair chunk is Clark Kent, who I don't think this is my favorite version of Superman, but this is probably one of the closer iterations of being one of my personal favorites.
I really like that it's Jack Quaid. I think Jack Quaid, he's not really somebody I would imagine as Superman, but I mean, I love Jack Quaid. Like, don't get me wrong, one of my all-time favorite actors. Just purely not even just because of the movies he's in. So a lot of the movies he's in are terrible. But just by the fact I saw him on a couple of Red Letter Media videos, and he rules. He's just one of the most down-to-earth actors I've seen in modern times. So like, I love his style. But he's great as Superman. He brings a very kind of timid and nerdiness to this character, but it's not pathetic.
Right. It's like, it's like kind of the same. It's kind of the same energy that we get from the Donner movies.
Yes.
A little less pathetic.
Right. Well, because that's the thing, is that I've noticed there's been so many different Supermans that we've experienced over Superman Summer. And that is, we get kind of the light and bubbly kinds of Supermans, like your Christopher Reeves and your Jack Quaids. You get the ultra serious Supermans like Henry Cavill and the Fleischer cartoons. Obviously, Fleischer Superman and Man of Steel Superman seriousness are vastly different, but there's still that kind of ultra seriousness to these characters. So I feel as though Jack Quaid is more going for the light and bubbly kind of Superman, which is fine. Yeah, he's not my favorite Superman, but I think what's most important is that this show gets the core qualities of Clark being a fucking superhero down perfectly. Like, he's a character who just loves to help people just for the sake of helping people. He has no, deeper meaning to that. He just wants to help people because it's the right thing to do. A very Superman aspect that, no matter what, the show nails that perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. And like, another aspect to this is that, this was from another person, but with like a lot of the bad faith criticisms that I was talking about before, I found a Tumblr post with a buttload of these for each of the characters in season 1. And for Clark Kent, I found the criticisms for him especially weird, since they criticize him for not having much of a motivator at all outside of just he wants to help people, which, like, two things. One, that's fucking Superman. I don't know what else you want.
Yeah. What have we been watching? Oh, that's true. We've been watching Man of Steel for fucking 10 years.
Right. And this wasn't even from a Man of Steel person, just someone who's like really particular about their Superman, because they're an artist and creative as well, which I have my own rant about that. But to not go off topic. Thing number two, that's just straight up false. Because yes, just helping people, doing the right thing is one of Clark Kent's motivators. But we get another one that's explored in season 2, just this crippling feeling of loneliness that he gets a lot from. He lives on Earth and he wants to be accepted by people. He wants to be part of them, but he constantly fears that no one will really accept him. And obviously season 2 is a little hit or miss with it. Spoilers. But that really does, I think the show does do a solid idea of what happens if Clark starts to lose faith in, this support system that he's trying to build for himself. Because you really look at a lot of the other characters in the show, especially the fucking government, and they're really out to get him, which I find incredibly relatable as someone who, has been struggling, but also has had a lot of other friends who's been struggling even worse because a lot of systems out there are just targeting them for being different. And I think that's something that this version of Clark best embodies more than other versions of Superman. This story for Clark is all about acceptance and tolerance.
Yeah. So, lesson learned, don't go to Tumblr for media literacy.
Yeah, exactly.
A lesson I learned long ago.
Oh, and somehow still better than Twitter media literacy. Dear God.
We should just, nuke the internet, go outside.
Yeah. Touch grass.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's other characters. Let's talk about Lois first, because I think she would
Hey,
be.
Lois.
Yeah.
Hey, Lois. Have you ever noticed that in the second Smash movie, Neil Patrick Harris isn't working at his job right now? Like, what happened with that? Did he get fired or something? I have no idea what happened there.
Peter, the Smurf is here. Anyway, so Smurfus Lane, Lois Lane, in this show, yeah, I was a little, I will admit, I was a little, I didn't know what to expect with Lois. I'll be honest. I was like, what are they gonna do with Lois? Because I mean, right off the bat, the design screams tomboy Lois to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing here. But spoiler alert, I actually really do like this Lois characterization. There's a few bumps in the road, but overall,
right.
I really like this Lois. I think she's really well-rounded. I love how she can get, because she has the core Lois isms down, where she's, very feisty, very, very much always wanting, to do the right thing, but also for, trying to get that story, trying to chase that journalistic intent. But she can also be very, very introspective, and I think that's a very good angle, and I'm glad the show does that.
Right. Like you said, this isn't my personal favorite version of Lois. In fact, I actually think the DCAU take on Lois takes that cake. But I would say this version of Lois is probably top 3 for me, and I think it's because while later on they do kind of stumble this a bit, in season 1, I think she's the best written character in that particular season. Because I feel like season 1 does a really good job of making her this flawed character where, okay, she does some really questionable things. She lies to her coworkers initially to get what she wants. She jumps off the building to try to out her boyfriend, which a lot of people did not like. I think they're cowards.
Well, yeah, because I think on the surface you could be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing, jumping off the building? But then it's like, well, wait a minute. That's what Lois did in the refilms. So it's out there, but of course it's out there. Lois is a very out there kind of character. So it's bizarre, but I fully believe this character would risk that,
Yeah, and I find it really interesting in the show, especially because with that specific moment, when it was done in the Donner films or in the comics, it was mainly done for comedy. When they're doing it here, they're actually subverting it for some really solid drama that still has its bumps in the roads, but ultimately I think it's a really cute and well-written relationship.
Yeah.
And I think Lois's flaws really help that, because obviously Clark has his issues too, as Lois points him out on it. But with like Lois, where she also gets called out for this, a lot of her toxic behaviors that she calls out, she can also be guilty of, which is fairly realistic in a lot of people. We sometimes we embody the traits that we hate the most. And for Lois's case, it was because of her dad not really being the best parent.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing with Lois, is that I was kind of afraid that they would, like, you would have her have these scenes where she's flawed, but then she wouldn't have any regrets, or like, they would characterize her as being like, kind of always in the right. And I feel like that's just, I feel like a lot of shows and movies with a lot of modern writing kind of tend to do that, where they try to make their characters flawed, but you don't believe it. You don't believe that they're trying to learn through their flaws. They're just putting them there to be like, oh, we have to put flaws in our characters, and then no lessons are actually learned. I feel as though lessons are actually learned here through this character.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what makes me admire the show a lot, and for Lois in particular, because when these characters are faced with hardships or flaws that they need to overcome, they actually overcome them. I
Right.
remember watching a lot of the Phase 4 Marvel shit, and I like specifically remember for a lot of the movies and the few shows that I have watched in full, it's like making characters specifically flawed without getting their comeuppance.
Ugh, yeah.
With apparently one of the few exceptions to that being the She-Hulk, which everyone dunks on, but I haven't watched it in full to make a proper judgment for it yet, and I should probably remove my rating for it, to be honest.
And I'll probably never watch it, because why would I? I mean, I'll probably would, but like not anytime soon. Yeah, no.
I mean, you have more of a passage to write it than I do, because you watch The Sopranos.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah, no. Watch The Sopranos first, and you'll be like, wow, this is so much better.
Yeah, and on top of that, you won't get spoiled for the Smurf prank.
Tony, she was a Smurf.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah, no, I ended up really liking this Lois. I was very happy with what they did with her. And any moments that did kind of annoy me with her, I feel as though they were able to fix it in later episodes, and it was all well worth it by the end.
Right. And with those episodes, we can talk about them soon. But
Right.
we've talked about Clark and Lois
Mhm.
for a bit, and we both kind of agree these are really good versions of their characters, just not our personal favorites.
Mhm.
You want to know who is a character in this trio who happens to be my personal favorite version of him?
I'm gonna
Jimmy.
guess Jimmy Neutron, Jimmy Olsen. Yeah, I think now obviously my experience with Jimmy Olsen isn't as extensive, because I only know him via, jokes and the Donner films, and I liked Mark McClure, but he didn't exactly get as much screen time as Jimmy in this show. So I'd say by default, this is probably, yes, my favorite version of Jimmy Olsen thus far.
Yeah. And yeah, like even with reading some of the books where it's like Matt Fraction Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen run, one of my personal favorite books of all time. I feel like that the issue that Jimmy has sometimes in the comics, and then even worse in adaptations, is that despite being like a core Superman character, he's like never really put in the spotlight
Right.
a lot of the time. Like
right.
he's just more of a side character doing his own thing.
Right.
And when he does get his own plots, you have an episode like STAS's Superman's Pal, which is still better than BTAS's worst, in my opinion, but it's still not a super good episode.
Mm-hmm. And then
with
other adaptations, you get Jimmy Olsen, the CIA agent in PBS.
Yeah. Oh, I fucking hate BVS so much. Okay. Positive thoughts. Smurfy thoughts.
Wait a minute.
Oh no. Okay. So I think what makes this version of Jimmy so so fun in particular is not just the fact that he's a main character, but also they do a brand new angle with his whole weirdness,
Mm.
where he has his own Flamebird podcast. One may even say too many Flamebirds. And so
One may.
yeah. And so basically his whole shtick is being not only a photographer, but also a conspiracy theorist who happens to be right about everything by chance.
Yeah. I mean, because Jimmy Olsen is a very nerdy character inherently, and I'm glad they keep that angle going where he's a gigantic dork in this show. But a lovable
Right.
dork. A very lovable dork.
Yeah. And and like for season one in particular, it's rushed, but I also find it really funny that he goes to like a 5 to 6 subscribers to over a million during the season's final episodes.
Yeah.
It's rushed, it's fast, but damn it, I find it funny, and it honestly gets even funnier in season two.
It does, yeah, because I mean, spoiler alert, he sells the podcast to the Daily Planet for $5 million. Incredible.
And then he spends it on stuff like a trip to Antarctica, a whole fucking boat, literally the leader of a Daily Planet side team, consisting of kids who barely even listen to him, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I.
And yeah, and God's third greatest gift amongst men, Steve Lombard.
Oh, dude, Steve Lombard is the goat, my guy. I love this Steve Lombard because he's just you think he's like this airheaded jock character, and he is, which totally fucking rules. But I just love his relationship with Jimmy. I love the reveal of him being the guy who's debunking all of Jimmy's videos by just going, nah.
Nah.
I love Steve Lombard.
Why is Don't Skip Leg Day on here 3 times?
Never question the Steve code.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, love Steve Lombard so much.
Yeah. And I bring it up because honestly, aside from the other main characters, oddly enough, Steve is like the most important character to Jimmy in this show.
Good.
Like in season one, not only is he trolling him, but he's the one who faces Jimmy with the possibility of, the trio drifting apart a little bit, which kind of does happen in the later episodes. So ultimately, a lot of the time it is up to Jimmy to bring the whole group all together, like we see in, trying to act as Clark's morale throughout the finale of season one, and then bringing the group together in season two in Olsen's 11.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff. And then also Steve saves his ass in like the penultimate episode of the show.
Yeah.
He even has his own wolf themed truck. It's so good.
So funny because I feel like a lot of Steve's scenes are there for the sake of comedy, and it is very funny, but it never takes away from the genuine moments. Like when he is talking to Jimmy about, maybe your friends are abandoning you, it doesn't come across as like a character manipulating another one. It just comes across as, this is what I'm seeing through this guy's perspective. Maybe your friends are being kind of shitty to you. So it's like genuine, actual advice for that character.
Yeah, right. Which is what makes Steve really fun.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect to him is that he's one of the 2 characters in the show that Vincent Tong voices, which I personally get trauma from as someone who grew up with Mega Man Fully Charged when I was 12.
There's a lot of voice actors in this one.
Yeah, the Vincent Tong scars never, they never went away, man. They never went away.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, speaking of like Daily Planet members, honestly, up until season 2, I think that pretty much does cover almost everything with Jimmy. Aside from meeting a gay couple in the forest, that was really based.
The gay European robot and gorilla, yeah.
Yeah, the brain and Monsieur Malin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
I fucking love this show's take on them.
mm,
Like, I grew up with like Teen Titans and a bit of knowledge on the Doom Patrol, and with watching Teen Titans and the fifth season, Brain and Mala were some of my personal favorite villains on that show, especially with the whole arc where they literally assemble all of the Titans' main villains throughout the other seasons, minus a few exceptions. And literally, this whole cult of supervillains is led by a fucking brain in a jar and a French gorilla.
well,
So,
I
yeah,
really appreciate their characters' inclusions because these are actual characters from the comics. This isn't like the Reeve films where they just make up shit. They just make up characters to just plop in there. It's like, no, we're actually extracting real characters from the comics and adapting them to more accessible means, like, so now we can experience these characters that have been kind of locked away in DC's comics for years. Like, we actually get access to these characters. I didn't even know there was a French gorilla and German robot, Like, I had no idea these were characters in the comics. Like, when the gorilla shows up at the end of one of the episodes, I just thought, oh, are they doing Gorilla Grodd? But like, no, now I'm being introduced to some characters that I've never even experienced before.
yeah, exactly. That's what's really cool about actually adapting characters from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps that in the show in general, Brain and Mala are just a very sweet couple who, when, with Jimmy and Superman arriving, they finally get to go on their little gay multiversal adventures. And I also remember from another one of Campbell's interviews, she said that with how they decided to adapt Brain and Mala, it was that was the decision made because they didn't want to do the Ultra Humanite in fear of retreading old ground again. But with how Campbell described it, it was really interesting where it was like, okay, if Superman didn't find them in this universe, then maybe they would have gone insane from hiding and formed the Brotherhood of Evil. But no, they got found. They're part of the main trio's support system now, and now they can go on their little misadventures while helping them again later in the show.
Right.
In the same episode where we get another gay couple in the show. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just a really fun duo of characters, to be honest. Speaking of the other gay couple, to be honest, that kind of transitions over to villains a little bit, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, because again, these are villains that I have never really seen kind of adapted. If I have in other DC projects, I don't remember them clearly. So this was nice for the show to actually take advantage of these characters. There's a whole encyclopedia of DC characters just waiting to be adapted. And it's nice to not just have the same rogues galleries that we were used to. It's nice to see
Right.
familiar faces from time to time, obviously, but I feel like you need to adapt other characters as well, because these characters have been in the pages for years.
Yeah. So, with these villains, I will say it was a little odd how many of them are adapted,
Mm-hmm.
specifically because, again, this is another instance where probably the show was hit the hardest when it came to what they had to do with doing something new with the villains. They couldn't. What they basically did, that I got from one of the interviews again, is that they looked at the core of each of the villains and it's like, okay, what can we do? What's new with these villains that, isn't done that wasn't done while still keeping the core. So
Mm-hmm.
starting with probably one of my personal favorite examples and the show's first villain, but also one of the probably the most controversial example, Livewire, which is I say this because the show makes her a mercenary, but in STAS and the comics, Livewire actually starts off as a shock jock. I'm kind of curious, Hal, since this is basically your first exposure to the character. What did you think of her?
I thought she was good. I don't know. I don't really know if I have any strong opinions on Livewire. I thought she served her purpose well throughout the show as being, obviously starting off as a villain and then kind of becoming sort of an anti-hero towards the end, where it's like she still does bad things, but for good reasons, quote unquote.
Right.
Yeah, no, I thought she served her purpose well. I don't really have much strong opinions on her. But you say like she's a controversial adaptation.
Yeah, it's mainly because the shock jock angle of Livewire is a fairly unique one for her,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, okay, in like the comics and SJS, you have this loudmouth and toxic reporter, almost like a grifter, who goes after Superman publicly a lot, kind of like J. Jonah Jameson.
Sure.
And I think from that angle, yeah, what they did with Livewire before is more original than what they did here, where she's
Sure.
mostly a weapon smuggler.
Yeah, she's just
But
a
I
weapons
think
mercenary. Like, yeah, okay. I see what you mean by that.
right, yeah. But I think what meant I also forgot to mention, damn it, the other controversial aspect about her is her design.
Then.
I think for me personally, it's just the suit that kind of kills it, which goes for like a lot of the villains. A lot of the villains in the show have really generic suits, to be honest.
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
do.
I'm not like the biggest fan of that, but with Livewire, it's super weird because a lot of people were critical of like the suit she had in her first episode, just with the heavy militarized look and the spikes. But honestly, it's probably the best villain look she has in the show. I think that her civilian design, I'll just say, yeah, I brought up before the showrunners had a specific goal with the characters, and I think they succeeded here. She's hot. I think she's hot.
Well, that's kind of the thing that was very distracting for me while watching the show, where I'm like, okay, I know what you're doing. Again, with the tomboy Lois, the himbo Superman, Heatwave being this butch lesbian character, I'm like, I know exactly what you're doing, animators.
Who's in a relationship with Livewire, by the way.
Exactly. It's like, okay, this is totally just for the fans, quote unquote. You know what I'm talking about. And look,
yeah, those fans.
Let me be clear. That's not an inherently bad thing. I'm not against that. I'm just saying this is clearly not for me, but it's for another group of fans who get something out of that. And that's totally fine. I'm just saying, let's not pretend that it's not that.
I will say, speaking of Heatwave, because she's important to Livewire a bit.
Yeah.
I think for the most part in the show, Heatwave is just kind of there, especially in season 1,
very much
pad
so.
out the Revenge Squad roster.
Yeah.
But I will say, I was really happy when she and Livewire were a couple in season 2, mainly because when the show was first airing and Heatwave's voice actress revealed that she was a part of the show, she actually showed screenshots from the season 2 episode while season 1 was airing, showing Heatwave and Livewire as a happy couple together.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, are they really going to do this, or is this just a tease or dumped footage? No, they actually commit to this, and okay, the relationship doesn't show up too much in that episode.
No.
I will say that is a tad bit disappointing, and I wish they do more with that in the future. But as a whole, I really love their chemistry. I think what little we got of them is cute. I love what Livewire's speech. These bitches gay. Good for them.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would be more impressed with it if Heatwave got better characterization. As it stands, it just feels like brownie points gay couples. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's not inherently a bad thing. It's like, oh, they're forcing the gay couple into the show. It's like, yeah, but I don't know. It's not the worst thing in the world. They're just kind of there, Yeah,
right. And not only are a lot of the showrunners on the people queer, including Josie Campbell, but also most of the fans with the show who actually can enjoy stuff instead of complaining about two lesbians being villains, are happy with this.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think that's what matters most. People are happy with this. I'm
sure.
personally happy because even with what little of what we got, I think that the show has a very cute couple with both Brain and Mala and Livewire and Heap. Actually, just cute couples in general.
Sure.
And on top of that, I think that they took a rather generic concept for Livewire, making her an arms dealer, and did the most of it by making her a bit of an anti-hero towards the end,
Hmm.
but just making it so that way she is willing to do good things just if she's getting paid for it.
Right,
I
which
think
is
that
funny.
is a yeah. I think that is a funny and fairly reasonable and good take on
Yeah.
the character.
I think
And I would
I think
yeah.
if Heatwave was better characterized, I'd be right there with you guys going like good for the gays, whereas here I'm just like I mean, I'm saying good for the gays, but it's like they could also break up in the next season. I wouldn't really be torn up about it.
Yeah. And personally I do really hope that they do more with them in the future. I
Sure.
mean, we only have 2 seasons so far, so
Right.
only time could tell.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I think what we stands, like you said, we could have more, but I am a little happy with what we got.
Yeah.
I will say though, in spite of the fact that of the aside from just from the 2 seasons as a whole collective, Livewire is probably my favorite villain that occurs throughout these 2 seasons.
Mm.
But there is a very special exception in season 1 that the show goes above and beyond with. Let's talk about the parasite,
Ooh, Dr. Ivo.
who my PFP is based on. Fucking Doug Walker Ivo.
I love any sort of nostalgia critic edit of a character. It's my bread and butter, man. It's so good. um, Dr. Ivo, I was a little hesitant with at first because it's just like, oh, here's this tech billionaire with a goatee named Tony who acts like a douchebag. But then I looked it up. It's like, oh wait, no, Dr. Ivo was always a character. So it's like, oh, okay. Um, and yeah, they do not make him like Iron Man-ish. They make him very much his own kind of character. Um,
Right.
I remember I was looking at the concept art you showed me earlier of like early on they were really making it really heavy. They were putting the heavy on the douchebag side of his tech proness, and I'm like,
Yeah,
that's too
literally making
far.
him look like a hipster.
Yeah, it was too far. It was too on the nose where it's like, God, guys, this is dumb. Whereas here, I mean, yes, you still give him the douchey haircut with the man bun and the shaved sides, and he does like, his whole tech bro shtick where he's like, "Hey guys, I'm the cool billionaire with my tight jeans, and I talk about things kind of quirky. But I think that does wonders for his character. I'm never annoyed by him. I'm annoyed by him, but I feel as though that's justified annoyance, like for the sake of the
Right.
character. Oh yeah, and just the actual parasite suit that he uses, I'm like, holy shit, this kind of rules. Not gonna lie, I love
Yeah.
his initial episode, and then I love how he keeps coming back in season 1.
Hey, buddy, did you really think you could just ruin my life without any consequences?
Yes.
Oh my God. I gotta say, like, out of every character in the show, Parasite is one of the most quotable, and I think it's because Jake Green's performance for Ivo is so good.
He's really good. Yeah, I like him. I mean,
Yeah.
I hate him because he's such an asshole, but I like that he's such an asshole.
Yeah, it's like this perfect mix of this kinetic douchebag energy in one scene, and then just screaming his lungs off, ready to rip Superman apart the next.
Oh, he rules.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and what I find really funny about Jake Green is that he's had some other voice roles before, and the only other role I recognized that he had was when he played Sid in the Buck Wild movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, you look at a lot of
Yeah.
these voice actors and you see their roles and you go, oh my God, they were in this cringy piece of shit. And then you hear them in
Yeah.
this show and their other great stuff, and you're like, oh wait, no, they're actually very talented. So it's like,
I will also remind everyone that Vincent Tong was also in Buck Wild.
oh
So,
yeah, oh.
oops.
Look, they went on to greener pastures. My Adventures of Superman. I'll say right here, this is my controversial stance. I think My Adventures of Superman is way better than The Adventures of Buck Wild.
My Adventures with Buck Wild.
No.
But yeah, I even talked about Ivo a bit in the Blue Beetle episode, if you remember that.
I
Wink,
don't.
wink,
I
wink,
completely
wink,
forgot most of the Blue Beetle episode, to be honest. Well, I didn't
But
forget
yeah.
about Let's Talk About It. Like that's genuine, one of the best parts of the podcast so far. But anyway,
Just absolute classic right there.
Yes.
But basically, when I was talking about Victoria Cord, I was like, I'm kind of sick of the CEO villain archetype.
Yeah.
Because even the show later on does fall into this pitfall. But it's really tiring just seeing a bumbling CEO villain who is in power but just incompetent at their job and just not doing much else, just being clearly evil. And like, fine, I get it. In retrospect, a lot of CEOs in our country are idiots. Musk being the biggest one of all.
Yeah, absolutely. But just doing a Musk thing, just being like, oh, see, this character's just like Elon Musk. It's like, all right, that's not interesting. You know, like I need something more than just, oh, we're doing it because, you know, Elon Musk realistically is a piece of shit. It's like, yeah, but like do an interesting character. Exactly. I completely agree.
Yeah, and it's like with the CEO villain, I think it can work when it's like someone smart and cunning, like Lex Luthor. Even if I do prefer that scientist side of him more personally, both can coexist.
Yeah,
but no, my issue with the CEO villain is just over relying on the stupid CEO trope, and Ivo is the exception to that because he does stupid shit, like stupid malicious shit, but they go all in with it.
Because I remember so much more about Dr. Ivo than I do Susan Sarandon's character in Blue Beetle or whoever the fucking villains were in the Iron Man movies. You know, they actually give him this really interesting performance, and just they go, like you said, they go all out with this character so that he's still a dumb CEO character, but they really play around with that concept. It doesn't feel, I don't know, it's a lot more fun than any of those other examples I gave.
Right. And I won't even say that the show is subtle with this aspect, but
no.
What I really like about the Parasite is not only is he just a villain, a Superman villain that can sap the powers, abilities, and just the energy from any life force that he comes into contact with, which is already a super cool power.
Yeah.
But also, what makes the Parasite character so interesting to me is that before the transformation, a lot of Parasite is a legacy villain, and a lot of the people who do become the Parasite are figurative parasites. And sometimes I don't think it works. There are instances with other versions of Parasite where they make him addict, and I find villainizing that to be really gross. So I think that you know, the more unlikable you make Parasite, the better it is. You could do a sympathetic Parasite, but taking a douchebag CEO billionaire like Ivo, who the show explicitly states profits off of literally bombing his own competitors and leveling entire blocks where people might live in just so he could profit off of it, and then making him the goddamn Parasite. a
Yeah.
literal leech of a villain.
There you
It's
go.
not subtle, but it works so well.
Sure, I'm always a champion for subtlety in media, but if you still write it well, then I'm fine with it being a little on the nose, you know? Because again, we still get an entertaining performance out of Dr. Ivo, so I'm completely fine with the lack of subtlety.
Right. And on top of that, he literally goes Shin Godzilla in the finale of season one. What's not to love?
Yeah, no, I love how he turns into this giant kaiju version of Parasite. It's like, this rules. Okay, I will say it's a little weird how he's gaining energy from the city, and then when everybody starts to turn off the lights, he immediately loses all the energy. It's like, I thought he would have it for a little while, like eventually he would, you know, lose that energy because he's putting it all back into Superman. But I felt like that was a little
Right.
rushed. But again,
Yeah.
the way it's executed, though, you know, the whole turning off the energy and then Superman's able to fight him, then it's like, okay, that's still a really cool aspect. Oh yeah, and the shot of Superman going through and saving Ivo, not killing him, saving him. It's like, that rules.
Yep. So good.
Yeah.
I will say with like the power aspect, I always personally kind of viewed it as not just turning off the lights, but you know, turning off the rest of the energy to the city, because that's how Iva would lose his power.
Right.
They could have just done a bit of a better job conveying that.
Yeah,
I get you.
the show does have pacing issues from time to time. Sometimes it can be really good, sometimes it's not so good. But I feel like the coolness of that scene is still there, regardless of pacing issues.
Right. And overall, Ivo is a really fascinating villain,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely my personal favorite from season one. I would say there's other bigger villains in the show to address, but I do kind of want to talk about the other smaller villains in season one.
Yeah, I think.
Starting with the weirdest and the one that had the most potential, but ultimately they just never capitalized on it yet. Inner Gang.
Yeah, I thought they had a cute episode on their own, but I do wish they did a little bit more with them. I think that's fine, but they're definitely not. They're definitely not as memorable as, you know, yeah, Dr. Ivo and some of the other later villains.
Right. Like, I will say the first aspect of it is Silver Banshee, where, okay, her design, really cute. But also, when I was getting into this show, I actually started reading more Silver Banshee comics since the
Mhm.
show got me hooked on her character. And while I still kind of like what the show does with her, I will say Silver Banshee's, specifically her magic powers and Irish heritage in the comics, is extremely important to her character.
Mhm.
So seeing that kind of put to the wayside in the show is really disappointing.
Yeah,
And Catherine Tabor,
the
yeah,
most
Catherine
Irish
Tabor
thing.
is a great actress.
Yeah, and the most Irish thing about her in the show is her name, Shaban. Like, oh, Shaban from the
Well,
old Irish countryside.
actually, it's Siobhan.
Siobhan, I don't care. I'm not. I mean, I am Irish. Never
Siobhan.
mind. I am Irish. I should know that.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
Yeah, because I do prefer her design in that. What is it? Superman, Batman, Public Enemies movie that I watched. By the way,
yeah.
fucking rules. Great movie. And she
Mhm.
only shows up for like a second in that movie, but her design was fucking cool. Whereas here, it's just, oh, she has a mask that makes her scream loud. It's like, oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
It's
I think her armor.
it
I
makes
think her
sense in the
armor's like a little
context of the
better, but
show. It makes sense in the context of the show, but like, I don't know. I think I've seen better adaptations, but again, whatever. It
yeah,
works in the show fine.
yeah. And it's like Livewire got her powers from the tech. Why couldn't you do something similar with Silver Banshee?
Right. Right. And
Yeah,
then there's Mist,
yeah.
her brother, played by fucking Ryan from High School Musical. Fucking random and
Lucas
cool.
Rabil.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
so cool. I was just like, "What? Look at you! You're no longer Sharpay's twin brother from High School Musical. Now you're Mist in My Adventures with Superman." That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mist is my personal favorite member of the trio, not just of because I think it's interesting also seeing him in a more vulnerable state in episode 8, asking for Superman's help while
Yes.
ultimately acting as bait.
Hmm.
But also, fun fact, when I basically since 2021, I believe, I've been cosplaying as like a bunch of other DC characters that I've been into at the moment. And for 2023, I decided to cosplay as Mist. That
Okay.
was really cool. I really liked that, especially since a lot of people said that my resemblance to him was very uncanny, which I found very funny and relatable. So
There you
and
go.
then Roughhouse, and then Roughhouse is cute, but he's also just kind of meh.
He's just the big, strong guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Also voiced by Vincent
Oh,
Tong.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do quite like his design, especially since in the comics he's such a nothing character. But
Sure.
yeah. And it's like really disappointing because like, okay, I really love the concept for them in like their debut episode. You have a brother, a sister, and their best friend who act as a trio of criminals who want to be respected, sort of paralleling our main trio a bit.
Sure.
Like, yeah,
But they don't
like,
really play into
oh,
that much, I don't think.
exactly. And it's like after season one, they did say the showrunners said that with working with so little episodes, there are seasons where they unfortunately have to fluctuate between which characters to use for each season and which
Yeah.
not. But they just barely show up at season 2 at all, except for like the very finale.
Yeah, that's the troubling thing I think with these characters is that, well, one, there is a lot of characters to juggle in this show, and some of them get a lot of screen time, which is good because they're very good characters, but then some that should require more time to develop, they don't really get that much. Yeah, so there's not really much to talk about with the Intergang. I think they're cute for their debut episode, but then they're just kind of always there in the background for the rest of what we've seen so far. And it's kind of a shame, you know? I'd like to see more from them if possible.
Right. And I'm really hoping that they do more with them in the future because I think you could do some really fun misadventures with them and
Yeah,
actually do more stuff with paralleling them to the main characters.
sure.
There is one other minor season 1 villain, Mr. Mixius Spitlick.
Yeah, how do you say his name again?
Okay, it's Mixius Spitlick or Mixius Spitlick. Don't
Mixius
worry,
Spidlick.
STA. Yeah, don't worry. STAS will help you when you get to his episode. So
Sure, yeah. I vaguely know
it's
him.
Mix Bees Spit Lick.
Yeah, I know vaguely he's like voiced by Gilbert Gottfried, which is fucking awesome. So I can't wait for that.
Oh
Um,
my God, that show uses Gilbert Gottfried so well.
awesome. I love any
Yeah,
piece of media that uses Gilbert Gottfried very well. I mean, I love any piece of media that has Gilbert
yeah,
Gottfried, but yeah. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, I'll say this: his episode's my least favorite of season one. I'll say that,
Yeah.
but not because of him.
An opinion that I personally share with.
Yeah, I actually really like his character. I think any scene with him is great. I think it's a very, from what I can tell, it's obviously a very different take on the character. But it works within context of the show. So it's like, yeah, this is
Right.
cool. I kind of like how it's the hat, but then when he puts it on, it becomes like this weird crown thing. It's like, okay, that's kind of cool. Okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Um,
He has this really fun little Dragon Ball-esque design, which
Dragon
I
Ball, yeah,
personally prefer. Yeah, which I personally prefer to his comic designs.
okay,
Personally, I know that's a hot take, but
sure.
I have my preference.
Sure.
And fun fact, the voice actor for Mixius Spidlick in the show, I believe, Dave Reggio Jr. Um, he voices Ferb in the Candace Against the Universe movie.
Wow. They didn't get the kid from Nanny McPhee back. Sad.
Yeah. But
What?
also learning about that was really funny for
Yeah,
me.
sure.
And it's just one episode for McSee's so far, but I do genuinely wish that he pops up more often because both STAS and Moz, I love McSee's a lot, even if I'm personally a little more mixed on the villain in other versions, mainly the comics.
Sure.
No, the other week, no, what makes an episode where Mr. McSee's shows up and so weak compared to the other ones are the other villains of the episode.
Yeah. All right. So I'll say this:
Uh,
when Mister Mitsubishi shows up and he's like, "Oh, I'm from a different dimension, and I've come across many Clark Kents," I'm like, "Okay." And then he starts going like, "You're just like your other versions," like, and he starts like snapping, and he shows the different versions of Clark, and one of them is the Fleischer Studios Clark, one of them is the uh, STAS version of Clark. It's like, okay, like that's a cute use of the multiverse. I like that.
one of them is also a crab.
One of them's also a crab. There you go. Too shiny. That yeah, cute. Very, very cute. I like that. Um, but then it's when the fucking other characters involved in the episode get involved, and it's the League of Lois Lanes.
Yeah.
I
Which
You go ahead.
okay, so it's a little hard for me to really articulate this because I think my opinion on them is mixed, but it leans more, my opinion on them leans more negatively than it does positively. I'm sorry.
It's
Like out of season one's villains, they're easily the worst.
I mean, are they even villains technically? They're I don't know.
I count I count them because in
Sure.
like the title in like the opening title card, the opening for the show
Yeah.
for both season one and two, it has all of season one's villains: Task Force X, Intergang, McSee, Parasite, Livewire, Heatwave, the whole shebang. And on to the left side of the screen, you can see the League of Lois Lanes with
Okay.
everyone else.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, because uh, I get it. It's a comic book show. You're gonna be dealing with high concept fantasy and science fiction at some point. That's fine. But this just crosses a line into ridiculous for me, where I'm just like, this doesn't feel appropriate for what the show's going for. What I really liked about the show early on, again, like I said, the style at first was kind of weird for me, but once you get into it, you get used to it, you're like, no, this actually kind of rules. I like that they're kind of keeping to themselves. They're kind of keeping themselves kind of, separated from the rest of DC's output. It was really cool to watch. And then you have this come in and it's like, oh, we're the League of Lois Lanes. We're the multiverse fighting people. And it's like, well, all right, what are we doing? Like this,
Right.
and I think with season 2 in mind, I think they really, they really did this way too early. If they're going to do a multiverse kind of episode, it should have been a season 3 or 4 thing. I don't know. I feel as though
Right.
I really feel like they made their shot too early with this, where it's just like, hey, by the way, there's an entire league of yous going around the multiverse fighting Superman villains. And it's just like, this is way too much to handle. And then the rest of the series, they never bring them up again. So it's like, that's
Yeah.
bizarre. And
Like the most relevant that they get is just the kryptonite in the orb that Lois gets. That's
yeah.
literally it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it goes way too far for me. I made this comparison. It was like, I don't know, the fucking Rick and Morty Citadel, where it's like the Council of Ricks. It's like it just
Yeah.
it was too ridiculous for me to take seriously,
Yeah.
and I just didn't like it was way too bizarre. I didn't like it.
Yeah. I have my own comparisons and takes with this.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, first off, obviously I haven't watched Rick and Morty, so personally I would compare it to earlier examples of this where the concept was actually fresh before Rick and Morty ruined everything.
Right, right.
Um, like we've kind of seen stuff like this in comics before with the Council of Reed Richards and Marvel Comics, which
Yeah.
I think, yeah, is a thing. Even Sonic had a joke in one of his books before about it. Like,
The
okay,
Council of
in this,
Sonics.
yeah,
Yeah. I guess you could
yeah,
kind of compare it to the Spider Society in Across the Spider-Verse.
I would, yeah,
But
I
even
was gonna
then,
say
I
that.
feel like, I don't know. I think at least with the Spider Society, yeah, it's kind of an inherently dumb concept. At least it was visually entertaining, visually stunning, and a lot of that was more so a joke, and that wasn't the point of that movie. There was more of a point. There were other things to, and I get it because it's a 2.5 hour long movie, so there were other things to focus on than just the Spider Society. Whereas here, this is what the whole episode's about, and that's what kind of bothers
Yeah,
me about it.
yeah, like I was going to say, okay, on paper, I think a League of Lois Lanes is really cool because you have a character as active and curious as Lois, who has a whole multiversal peacekeeping force centered around that. And it's like, okay, with a character as popular and active as Lois, who's gone on a lot of crazy misadventures in the past years, sure, why not do that? I think in retrospect, my main issue with it is that yeah, comparing it to the Spider Society, what we have now is just a worse version of Miles' conflict with the Spider Society and Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah,
don't and I don't
like
you were saying they're villains and you count them as villains, and that's the other thing. I don't think the show entirely kind of views them as villains, and I really wish they did. I feel like that would have been, not only would that have been a great twist to the episode, because the whole Mr. Myth being a twist villain, like that's kind of obvious because even I am going in knowing, okay, that's a Superman villain. Whereas I feel like, oh, if you made the League of Lois Lanes like another twist villain to kind of fool other people who know that, it's like, oh, okay, that's actually a really interesting aspect. But they never do that. They take these
yeah,
characters very seriously, and that just kind of bothers me.
yeah, and on top of that, the worst part is that they just don't ever flesh out what their whole deal is. Like
No.
what we get by the end of the episode is that it's implied that because they're knowledgeable about the multiverse, they're very skeptical of Superman because he's bad on a lot of Earths, which kind of leads into this commentary that the show kind of tries going with later. Fine, but um, obvious first thing, they're fucking Lois Lanes. Not every Superman in the multiverse is evil. They should know this. So what's with the paranoia?
Yeah.
Especially since you're older than this, Lois. Like reasonably, you should be more mature than this.
Yeah, exactly. So play into that villain aspect where they're just like, "Oh, we've seen Supermans go evil, so we're just going to assume all Supermans are evil." It's like, "Okay, that's a great motivation for becoming villains." But like
Yeah,
again, they don't do
I
that.
actually got an idea in my head one time before where it was like, oh, um, okay, so where the plot is where Jimmy and Lois do get invited by the League of Lois Lanes to go on this mission with this whole mission, but they start to notice that their methods are corrupt. But the thing is that with the whole villain twist, they find out that one of the Loises, the leader Lois, ends up being a Metallo disguised as Lois,
They could do that,
which
yeah.
which I think would have been really fun because, you know, you have because I have my own words with how the show adapts Metallo, but save that for later. You literally have a Superman villain who's basically a walking Terminator and has literally disguised as Clark Kent in the comics before. Why not do something here, especially since Metallo, John Corbin, has had a relationship with Lois in the comics before? Like, why not do that? That would have been really fun.
That could have been interesting. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I just don't think, I think they really fall for it just being, they're just doing the multiverse aspect so they can have these cute little cameos from previous incarnations of Lois and Superman, and then but just throw that in there because it's like, oh, it's a superhero show, like we got to do a multiverse thing because superheroes are doing multiverse things nowadays. It's like, yeah, but I don't know, it just never, it felt trend chasey, like not actually incorporated very well. It felt very trend chasey.
Yeah. Will say though, the one big positive with them, uh, Leisure Lois getting a cameo and her being the one starting this whole league, fucking rules.
Sure, I'll give it that. Any Fleischer shout out, I'll give a nod to. Like that's a W.
Yeah. I will also say with a lot of the other cameos in the episode, I did like it when Clark and Mixie went to the museum because a lot of the items there weren't actually a lot of traditional Superman items, but rather based on the Justice Society.
Yeah, you have like a Green Lantern ring. That's the
Uh,
one.
the,
That's the one I remember.
yeah. There were a bunch of others that I did recognize. You have Mr. Terrific's T-Spheres, Dr. Fate's helmet,
That's true. Yeah.
um, Stargirl's Cosmic Rod, all three of which were Justice Society members.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool thing. And considering that we're actually getting an expansion of this universe now with My Adventures with Green Lantern, I'm really curious to see how this universe fleshing out in Maz eventually does pay off. I
Sure.
think that there's a lot of potential with this, even if they kind of misstepped here with the multiverse
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, it's not inherently bad. I think at least it was so bizarre. I didn't like it, but it was so bizarre with the whole we're the League of Lois Lanes. I'm just like, what the fuck is this? So like, I'll give it that. It was a total what the fuck episode. Um, and then yeah, it just goes back into the stuff I actually like about the show in the last 3 episodes. So it's like it was just a weird misstep. I'm fine with it though because I've gotten over the initial reaction.
Yeah. And then with the rest of the season one villains covered, mainly the exclusive ones, that kind of leads into the whole overarching villains of the show, which are also super important.
Mm-hmm.
Task Force X.
Mm-hmm.
And this ain't your grandma's Suicide Squad, I'll say that much.
Good.
Or no, I should say this ain't your Papa Smurf Suicide Squad.
God damn it. Yeah, so we do get Amanda Waller, who I'm really starting to notice is just such a very fascinatingly despicable character in DC.
Right.
When done right, I think Amanda Waller can be a very interesting villain. That's the weird thing is like I don't know if I would necessarily consider her a straight up villain, but she's certainly not a hero.
Right.
I feel like she can play all facets: hero, anti-hero, villain, just like the whole all across the board. I think she can play.
Yeah. I know a lot of DC fans are this is another take on the show with characters that I know a lot of people are split with because Ostrander, when making Waller, along with other makers like Len Wayne, Waller wasn't originally intended to be this villain, more so a very morally gray character who
Sure.
literally forms the Suicide Squad to go on their own missions,
Yeah.
and no, it has bombs in their neck.
Yeah.
She does it, but she mainly does it to protect her country. And on top of that, even from the little books I have read, she's even willing to provide for them a little bit. Like I talked about in your server before about reading some Deadshot books. Really love Deadshot as a character. And one thing that I did kind of learn is that Waller and Bell Rev actually tried giving Deadshot a therapist.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I never got the idea of her being a villain in the Suicide Squad movies, the one where Viola Davis plays her.
Right.
But I feel like this one especially, she's definitely very, very despicable. She has her moments where you're just like, okay, you're not like a straight up villain, but she can be very devious in this show. And I like that. I like that the show is willing to go that far with her.
Right. And then it all just comes down to when you get to Olsen's 11, which is one of my personal favorite episodes for reasons that I've already stated when talking about Livewire and, the gay gorilla and brain.
Mm-hmm.
But also that's the episode where Waller launches the Human Defense Corps and puts Metropolis under martial law.
I love that. Just these giant fucking robots walking around being like, martial law is declared. Yes, we're the good guys. Why are you asking that? You're under arrest. So
I love
on the
it when
nose.
Superman fights. Yeah, I love it when Superman fights giant robots most of the time. It's so P.
Yeah, like Mechanical Monsters, the classic Fleischer cartoon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now the government literally has these big ass mechanical monsters.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, this is really fun. I think while I can enjoy Waller, I'm like a little more mixed on her than you are, because I do have my own I do have my experiences with Waller and the other leader of Task Force X, General Sam Lane in the comics.
Yeah.
And I am mixed on how the show handles Sam a bit, because Waller is obviously a lot more sympathetic in the earlier comics as well as other adaptations, where I feel like DC is trying to Flanderize her a little bit by making her more evil, which is I don't mind people like you at all appreciating more villainous takes on her. But I feel like in stuff like comics and Absolute Power, just seeing her basically be Hitler against metahumans is like going a little too far for me.
This is what Hitler was always supposed to be, a strong, independent black woman.
Which she did do in the comics recently. But also, I'm also mixed with how Sam Lane is handled here, and a bit of Superman and Lois while we're on as well, because this hasn't always been the way in the comics, but like ever since Jeff Johns really became I don't even think this was a Jeff Johns creation. Might have even gone back to post-crisis, but basically Sam Lane was a very abusive and horrible dad in the comics.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But they're not necessarily going for that. They're obviously going for the hard-nosed general father of Lois, which, by the way, I don't know how I would have figured this out, but I figured out pretty early on that the general is Lois's father. Because like even before the reveal during the last episode where he goes to Thanksgiving, I don't know, just something early on, I was just like, I think that's supposed to be Lois's father. Again, I don't know how I would have figured that out.
I think it's literally just because they have the same skin color and hair.
Yes.
Yeah. I also figured it out early on, like ever since episode 4 when it was first airing, because you literally have the whole scene on the staircase where Clark and Lois are talking. Great scene, by the way.
It's a great
Lois
scene,
actually,
yes.
yeah. And Lois opens up about the struggles that she has with her dad. And I'm like, okay, are they going to bring this back later? And then I look back to episode 2 where he first makes his cameo, and I'm like, oh, he looks a lot like a dad to Lois. Oh no.
Who are you, general character? You look a lot like my girlfriend, but who are you? I actually do like the general. I mean, on paper more so. I think in execution it can get a little rocky, especially towards the end of season 2 where he just kind of shows up again, and I don't know, he doesn't get another scene with Lois. I feel like that's strange.
Right.
But I'm fine with him not being a full-on abusive piece of shit. I'm fine with, kind of sympathizing him a little, because he does have that relationship with Lois. I think that would make more sense to make him more of the sympathetic kind than Waller, because, he actually does have his daughter kind of helping out Superman. So like he has that connection there. So I'm fine with that. I think, I think there are aspects where I feel like they kind of dumb him down that I get really annoyed with. Like in season 2, I'm really annoyed that he never figures out that Clark is Superman. It's like,
yeah, I got like super annoyed with that because like at the very last episode of season 1, they keep on teasing him putting the pieces together, and then in just season 2, he is just kind of oblivious with the show not doing that many
Yeah.
jokes about him guessing Clark's identity.
It's played mostly for a joke, and it's like, that's lame. I don't like that. I don't like that, and I especially don't like it because it's like, okay, Jimmy Olsen was able to figure this out in 5 minutes when he first met Clark, and yet this hardened, trained general character can't figure out that Clark is Superman. Like, it's just awfully, awfully convenient, and I don't like it.
Yeah, and I don't mind other characters not putting the pieces together in the best way. Like, I haven't mentioned this yet, but there's a tie-in comic for MAWS that was just only 6 issues, but the main villain for that story, and it's been a while since I read it, but the main villain for that story was actually Bloodsport, who leads a team that temporarily replaces Task Force X before season 2. You remember Bloodsport from the Suicide Squad?
Bloodsport from the Suicide Squad?
The Suicide Squad.
The Suicide
Idris
Squad.
Elba's character.
Okay, Idris Elba. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah. And also what's really funny is that, yeah, this character, these people aim to make everyone in the show look as hot as possible, and in the comics, Bloodsport literally just looks like Idris Elba. I think that says a lot.
This fucking show. Yeah, I mean, they probably did that because Idris Elba is probably the most popular version of that character in recent times. So
yeah. But also like the whole joke with Bloodsport not figuring out that Clark and Superman are one and the same. He comes to the conclusion that Clark and Superman are never in the same room together because Superman actually hates Clark, and Clark is trying to chase a story to suck up to Superman more to gain interviews, so that's why Bloodsport thinks Clark goes after the robot.
Sure. I mean, that's cute.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'd rather the obliviousness of a character of maybe like that reporter Kat, you know, where she can't figure it out. Like, that's funny. Like that actually, where she's like, she's not able to figure it out. That's funny. Whereas like with Sam, it's like, I feel like he should know at a certain point. And there's really nothing, like, if he knew by the end of season 1, it doesn't really change anything in season 2, you know, just let him know.
Yeah, exactly. I will say before talking about Sam more, a quick detour. Kat's really funny, and I find one bit in her episode in season 2 really funny, because when they like do this whole bit where she's about to tell Lois some information, it's just where Superman is dating, they like do this whole thing where they flash back between the two faces and zooming in more and more. It's really just that one bit from the SpongeBob movie. I always keep laughing at that scene because of the YouTube poop. Spinchbill travels across half the world for a hat.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just zooming in on him like trying to put the cheese on the burger. Give me a name, Phil.
It's literally the same scene.
Do me a
family, Phil.
Do me a favor, Phil. Say cheese.
Order up.
What an incredible movie.
So good.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to Sam Lane.
Yes.
Smurf Lane.
Back to Smurf Lane.
Okay. So, there are like 2 issues that I have with Sam where I initially thought he was my least favorite character in the show. I don't think that anymore, but I do have 2 issues with him. First off, I think it makes the conflict with Clark and Lois in season 2 very much more frustrating than it would have been otherwise. Because the whole thing with Lois is that halfway through the season, she breaks up with Clark because she kind of gets jealous of other people. Other people at the Bachelor show. Another one of the weakest episodes of the show. Saved by one aspect, which I'll mention later. But she's jealous of a bunch of rich people and kind of upset at Clark for doing the exact thing that she asked him to do. pretending to be a straight white male with no bitches like Mauler.
You're doing exactly what I told you to? I'm so jealous.
And it's like, okay, I get it. Lois is like very mentally strained at this point, but it's also like Clark has made it very clear that he will do anything for Lois, and she is the most important part in his world right now.
To an obnoxious
Rightfully,
level.
yeah.
To an obnoxious level.
Yeah.
I should say, not to sound misogynistic, but it's very inherently clear that this show is written by a lot of women when you have Clark Kent at every opportunity he can get to be like, oh, Lois, you're so amazing. You're so awesome. I love you so much. It's like, fine.
I want to get in your pants so bad.
Yeah, basically. And yet you still have Lois going like, I don't know if you truly care about me. It's like, I hate that. That is one of my least favorite episodes, is the Bachelor, the eligible Bachelor fucking episode. Not even just, and it's basically just because of that. Like the Kara and Jimmy scenes rule, whereas it's just this aspect of that where it's like, this is so manufactured and forced, and I don't like when the show gets forced and manufactured.
Yeah, right. And like a lot of this is because with the other thing is that Clark, not only does Clark explicitly state his love for Lois repeatedly, but he also tells her right up to her face he does not like her dad because her dad actively makes her feel awful about herself.
Again, written by women. Which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing that out there.
Yeah. And then after that, it's just her constantly putting what's stressing her out and her stuffy old dad who's making her feel worse about herself over Clark, which is really frustrating because that leads to the other thing that I'm really annoyed about Sam. In season 1, he literally tortured and kidnapped criminals, and they don't even acknowledge this. They just push the blame onto Waller in season 2. That really annoyed.
It's okay, Chaos. He was just following orders.
Bitch, he made the orders. He made the fucking orders.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can still make him a sympathetic character for torturing characters like that. I mean, because you have, not to skip ahead a little, but you have Kara in the second season where she literally, killed all those planets, and yet we still find her a very sympathetic character. You can still play with that. But yeah, okay, I do agree. They do kind of just shift the blame to Waller. And yeah, and because Sam doesn't get a lot of scenes later in season 2, it does feel as though we're kind of pushing that off to the side and not really exploring that deeper than that.
Right.
So I'll completely agree to that. Sure.
Like, I think what could have at least fixed Sam in season 2 a little bit, just to give him a bit more screen time, is with the Olsen's 11 episode. I think, while it is one of my personal favorites, I think they should have gone out their way a little bit more to throw in more characters.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, typically that's not a super great thing, but also this is an episode with just one singular plot, no subplots to worry about. So you could hone in on the Olsen's 11 aspect of the episode and don't just make it Jimmy, Lois, Brain, Mala, Livewire, and Heatwave. Maybe to complete it, you could also throw in Intergang, maybe Steel 2 since he was introduced earlier, and finally Sam Lane to round out the 11, so we get more scenes of him being good and redemptive while we're watching them try to get on this rocket and fighting against Waller's agents, Slade, Atomic Skull, Damage, the Metallos, the whole shebang.
Yeah, because
that would have been really fun.
Because as it stands, we get these characters again, but in the very last episode, at the last second, it's like, oh yeah, Sam came and found us, and we're trying to fight Brainiac now. It's like, oh okay, that's convenient that we haven't seen these characters in fucking forever. and now they're coming in at the last second. It just seemed awfully convenient. Yeah.
Right. We'll say I'm mixed on the generals as a whole, and that kind of extends to the agents a little bit. We can talk about the funniest one of the bunch, though. Slade Wilson.
Played by Jerry himself for Rick and Morty, Chris Parnell. Which is really funny because at first, when I first saw this character, and I'm just like, oh, who is this anime twink? I would have never guessed that was supposed to be Deathstroke. I didn't know until the very end where it said during the credits, Chris Parnell as Agent Wilson. I'm like, oh, God damn it. Because at first I'm like, that's no way that's Chris Parnell. That's like a sound alike. It is actually Chris Parnell. Right. Which he rules. He's a great voice actor. But yeah, I will say, yeah, he is one of the funniest characters. He's such a bitch. And I did find it funny because he's a very, very talkative kind of character. And yet at the end of season 1, he doesn't say a single word. So it's like obvious. They didn't get Christopher Parnell back for the second half of the season. Yeah,
but no, he runs his mouth a lot in season 2, and it's really funny.
Thank God, because that's one of the endearing aspects of Deathstroke is that he's just such a talkative douchebag. And he's great. Yeah, no, he's definitely one of those villains that brings levity to the screen.
Yeah. A talkative douchebag. He's kind of like Deadpool if he was actually consistently funny most of the time. Now, God fucking damn it.
I agree. Yeah. Oh, bringing up Deadpool just made you that sick.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Yeah. One may even say this show is making me thirsty. I literally downed a Sprite just now. Some Smurf Sprite.
God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say the one slight issue that I do have with Slade is it's kind of a bit of an issue that I do have with the show as a whole. I do think that they could have used more Superman villains instead of just pulling other villains from other DC corners. And it's like, okay, as a whole, I don't hate it too much.
Right.
Because, like, technically, Heatwave is a bigger offender than Slade is. Because they literally could have just used Volcana from Superman the Animated Series. And I don't mind, because she's a buff, butch lesbian. That's awesome.
There you go.
Deathstroke as an anime twink, funny as shit. But also with the end of the series kind of teasing him just being Lex's fuckboy assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow, look, an actual e-boy.
Oh, well, at least it's not Otis as an e-boy.
Yeah. But also, I do kind of think that they could have just had Mercy Graves fill this role.
Sure.
Even as like a military. Like, even as like a military agent, I think that would have been like a really cool backstory for Mercy. But as is, this is the funniest adaptation of Deathstroke by far.
I like this Deathstroke. I'm fine. Yeah, could we have used more Superman-centric characters? Sure. But I don't hate Deathstroke. I think he can be a fun villain character, and I think they do this very well with this character. I like what they do.
Right. There's another task force agent that doesn't get nearly as much screen time, but certainly makes a very good impact. Atomic Skull.
Yeah, he's more of a season 2 character, but yeah, because I like him when he shows up. I will say I don't like how he just kind of shows up out of the blue, and it's just like, hey, I'm in the show now. It's like, oh, okay. You didn't get a backstory or nothing. You're just kind of here now. Like that was weird. Right. But when he actually is, kicking ass on the show, then it's cool because it is a cool design and he gets a lot of really cool power moments. So it's like, I can forgive the sudden dropping him on our lap, sort of like that.
Yeah. I will say, for what I did say about like the other supervillain designs in the show, I think this show might actually have my favorite Atomic Skull design. It's really good, especially since with the exposed arms that he has in this. version, they're almost molten, and it's so good.
Right.
And it's also has one of my absolute favorite moments in the show, his very introduction, where Sam is trying to talk Waller out of this, so that way they can start working together again. And then the moment Waller rejects him, you see Atomic Skull bursting through the wall, melting it. His hideous flaming skull face now exposed, laughing maniacally, and the only thing that Sam can muster is what? And that goes so hard.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Like, just I think that just that one small line from Lane really speaks a lot to me, where he's just finding out, oh, these are the horrific lengths that my coworker is going to commit just to genocide Superman. Oh no, I fucked up.
Yeah. God damn it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Who's
And
the
I
other?
and I also
Sorry, you go ahead.
oh, I was also going to say I do really love the reveal in the same episode where these soldiers are gained similar metahuman powers that Livewire did, but now on purpose by experimenting on a lot of Stryker's inmates,
Mhm.
most of them being non-defenders who can't pay bail. And it's one of the more disappointing aspects of season 2 because this just never gets followed up on.
No, yeah.
But also just the concept of it is really, really chilling.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the last Task Force X agent that I haven't talked about yet is probably the most embarrassing villain in the show, aside from maybe the League.
What, you don't like old Smallhead?
Damage. I know, I don't like Damage.
Okay, yeah. I don't either, because I have no opinion on this character. He just kind of shows up. Again, much like Atomic Skull, he just shows up. He's like, hey, Superman, I'm a villain now. It's like, who are you again? And then he just doesn't get... Because at least with Atomic Skull, he just shows up, but then he at least does some really cool shit, whereas Damage is just this small head on a big body, and that's it. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
It's a weird design, and he just doesn't do a whole lot in the show.
Yeah, it's literally just Senator Armstrong, but not funny. And also, he gets like less than 10 lines throughout
Oof.
the entire season.
Oof, yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
And it's really baffling because he shares the exact same voice actor as Jor-El, so they could have gotten more lines for him. They just chose not to.
They chose nah.
And I find it really weird, especially since when both him and Atomic Skull sharing episode for a second appearance, Atomic Skull got lines, but Damage didn't. So even though they have similar levels of screen time, one clearly got more love than the other. It's really weird.
It's like that meme of the woman holding the child in the pool, and there's that other child off to the side drowning.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. There's other aspects of Task Force X to address, though. Let's go with the weaker one first, because I think the other one we have a lot more to say. But what did this show do with the Metallos?
Yeah, so I'm obviously very new on Metallo. I think I've obviously heard you talk about Metallo before. I think my big introduction to Metallo was that awful concept art of him in BVS that they were going to come up with. And then I officially got introduced to Metallo when I watched, again, that Superman Batman Public Enemies movie. Again, rules. And yeah, Metallo in that movie was fucking awesome because he's like this metallic skull that can just form a chainsaw with his arms. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is a great character.
Yeah, and literally makes a gun out of his own tech with a kryptonite bullet and says, Superman, from me to you, shoots Superman with it, and then buries both him and Batman underground.
What an awesome movie. I got to make an episode on that someday, in 2037.
Oh yeah. That'd fucking rock. With this show's take on Metallo, I'm more familiar with a Metallo in general, and I gotta say this is probably the worst take on Metallo. I'm sorry.
I mean, I get it within context where it's like, oh, we have these robots under our control and they're powered by kryptonite. We'll call them Metallos. It's like, I get it in concept, like within context of the show, it makes sense. But when you're trying to do a cool version of the character, well, this isn't a character; it's a lifeless robot controlled by Lex Luthor. This doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, it's kind of lame.
Yeah, it's literally just a ripoff of the Sentinels from Marvel, and like even then, I realize, wait, even with this like very weird Gundam like departure from them, which because these are inspired by the Zaku's from Gundam.
Sure.
At least give each of the drones personality, like the droids in Star Wars. That could have been really fun.
Yeah, you could do something like that. Yeah, but I guess they just didn't have time to do that. So they're just like, no, they're just robots controlled by Lex Luthor on an iPad. It's like, oh, okay, that's okay, that's kind of lame.
And then controlled by a super dumb CEO on an iPad. I'm not a fan of Thomas Weston.
Oh my god, yeah, because that whole episode. What was this? It was like episode 3, I want to say, of season 2, where you're introduced to Thomas Weston, you're introduced to Silas Stone and Dr. Irons. And oh god, there's just so much going on in this episode. Yeah, because I was thinking about it. It's not unlike the Parasite episode from the first season, but that episode was way better at establishing a douchey CEO and this tech that would then go on to be a bigger threat in the series. Yeah, no, the Parasite episode did that way better. Whereas here, there was way too much. Yeah, Thomas Weston as the CEO gets no screen time, or he does, but what little screen time we get, we can't really discern a interesting character from that. He's just kind of this loudmouth, sort of like Dr. Ivo, but not really. Like they never fully commit on this character.
Yeah, he sucks. He's literally just the bland, stupid CEO villain that I was talking about before. That I just think is tired, played out. He has a few funny lines, but ultimately not a big one to really write home about. And I think it says something that he's just a really inconsequential supervillain, and you can tell because he's one of the 4 characters in season 2 that Max Mittelman voices.
Right.
The other ones being Hank Henshaw, Atomic Skull, and Lex Luthor.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, just a really lame addition. And I think as a whole, episode 3 of season 2, Full Metal Scientist, is probably my least favorite of the entire show.
Because at least with
the
League of Lois Lane's episode, I still don't like that one either, but it was so bizarre in its execution that I was like, I mean, at least I'll never forget it. Whereas here, the only real thing that this episode has going for it is Dr. Irons and establishing, hey, look, we're doing Steel, except not embarrassing with Shaquille O'Neal. It's like, yeah, I guess, but like, I don't know. I feel like there's way too much going on in that episode for me to really gain anything substantial. Again, that I wouldn't have already gotten from the Parasite episode. Like, it just feels like a redo of that, but way less impactful.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, there's obviously still a lot of aspects in that episode that still works, but also you're literally doing General suspecting a bit more of Clark and Jimmy having to get roped up in Dr. Irons' business when there's worries about the Metallo, Lois and Vicky Lane's own subplot, which is probably the best part of the episode.
Oh yeah.
Aside from what aside from Flip Johnson, who I think is really funny, fucking flying newsroom toy helicopter shoots confetti.
Yeah, fucking
Yeah,
Metallo robots defeated by confetti. Whatever, it's cute. Yeah,
and Livewire shows up for like 2 minutes. It's like you're doing so much, something's bound to hit, but also you shouldn't be doing this much.
no, they shouldn't. Like the best parts are with Lois Lane and Vicky Vale, which by the way, Vicky Vale is a character in this show, and I think that's really cool. And I like that that's not just making a character that looks like Kim Basinger from Batman '89. Like they actually make her like a very unique looking character. They make her a bitch. I love that.
Yeah,
and I like the whole aspect of them kind of fighting each other to get that story. They have some really great moments throughout the episode, but they're not the focus, and I really wish they were, because that is the most interesting aspect of the episode, is them.
right. And yeah, because you literally have them fighting over this story, and even more importantly, you have two bi reporters with big booties fighting over the story. I was just about to say big booty bitches. God damn it!
You're falling for the propaganda. Stop it, Chaos. This show has good writing. Let's focus on that.
Yeah, as my great uncle once said, with great power comes great big booty bitch.
God damn it. No.
Okay. Back onto Smurfism. Back to the show.
Back to the Smurf.
Yeah. Okay, so I like it when I like the end of the episode. I think Hank Azaria does a very good job as Gargam. Wait, what? God damn it.
No, Dr.
Dr.
Hank Azaria plays John Irons.
Who's a cow, but then it turns out the farm is being closed down.
The Smurf is being closed down.
Okay. Well, no, it turns out Abertech is being closed down because Lex Luthor buys the company out.
Smurf Luthor.
Oh my god, this really is Home on the Range.
Let's talk a little bit about Lex Luthor, because there's not much to say so far. One, I like how he's supposed to be a twist. Now, granted, because you had been posting about MAWS for years before I ever saw this show, I remember seeing images of the Lex Luthor of the show, how he's like this fucking, this twink with a full head of hair. And it's like, this is Lex Luthor. It's like, oh, okay. But now that I've actually seen, yes, Scott the Woz. God damn it. Lex the Woz. Now that I've actually seen Lex the Woz in action, they really are just kind of slowly building up to him, because he doesn't get a ton of scenes. He gets moments here and there, and they're really great moments. I'm like scratching at the door being like, I need more Lex Luthor, because I love what they're doing so far.
Right. Like, you're like literally making him Ivo's assistant. So starting out from that same lowly position that Clark did, and then building his way up even more gradually than Clark did.
Yeah.
By first working for Ivo, then going for Task Force X, where he repurposes the Metallos, and then now we're getting him as the main villain for season 3, where he's finally going full force with LexCorp.
Yeah. And I love one of my favorite, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but I just love how at the beginning of the season, where he's at the tech place, he's like applying for a job, and they're like, no way, dude. And Jimmy Olsen goes up to him and is like, hey man, you just got to believe in yourself. And he's like, thanks, Jimmy, I'll take that under advisement. And then basically Jimmy Olsen causes Lex Luthor to be real, which is amazing. I love that.
Yeah. I remember another one of the shitty criticisms Bruno had against the show is when they were after they watched season 2 episode 1, they were like, why did Jimmy give Lex that advice? He doesn't even know him. And I'm like, bitch, that's called being a good person. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, Jimmy Olsen's a genuinely good person. He's a genuinely nice person. That's why later on in the show he helps out Kara, because that's what you do. He's just a genuinely helpful person.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
I will say Yeah. One scene with Luthor that I've really grown to enjoy the more that I've, really gotten back into the show is his whole debate with Jimmy
Mm.
in episode 4 of season 2. Because it's not even just you know, xenophobic, xenophobic propaganda. It's literally playing on the fears that the Pentagon has.
Yeah,
Okay, because what if Superman has to make a decision and it's a decision that's not in our best interest? Because he is the one who has the power to take anyone down, to expose them. You can't control them because really you're just as bad as Ivo, and look what he did. Look what Superman did to Ivo. So,
right. Well, the other thing too is that, he's yes, he is clearly fear-mongering, but it's not an inherently absurd idea to be afraid of Superman. I think because, how can you trust him, And I feel like that's what the show does. It does kind of well. I mean, it does. So I like the ideas of kind of, Lex Luthor planting the seeds of fear with Superman, because that's as people have seen, Superman can be very dangerous. Obviously, we know as an audience member that he has the best intentions, of course, but not
right.
everybody's going to see that. So that's clearly a very valid fear to have. Obviously, again, Lex Luthor has way worse intentions than Superman does. So yeah, that's why he's the villain, and him and again, it's fear mongering. He's fear mongering the people. He doesn't care to save the people. He just wants people to be fearful of Superman so then he can take over. Yeah, he has clearly way worse intentions.
Right. Especially since, Superman put him out of his job with Ivo.
Yeah.
So, one eye for another.
An eye for an
I
eye.
will, yeah, I will say, I do agree with you on a bit on like your review on Serialized. Like, yeah, it's weird that the tipping point for him to show how dangerous Superman can be towards the public is him destroying Star Labs property.
Yeah. Well, because, like, I'm not
Because,
inherently against the idea of him being like, see, he's dangerous. And, the part that bothered me was that everybody in that crowd was like, yeah, you're right. Superman is dangerous. Let's look at this how it is and look no further into it. It's like,
yeah.
like that. It seemed awfully convenient for the ending. See,
Yeah.
because they do kind of.
It's like even
No, you go ahead.
it's like even more it's like even more frustrating since we as the audience watched it. Task Force X was the one who did the most damage, and like,
Right.
I don't want to sound like a nitpicker, but doesn't Star Labs have security cameras?
Exactly my point. Because they do kind of address this later on in the season when you have Amanda Waller going on that television show, kind of establishing the Human Defense Force, and the host of that show is just like, we actually have heard that Superman's not that bad, and we actually have video evidence. So it's like, okay, so there's actually people thinking differently, that are, the masses have a wide variety of opinions. That's all I ask for, is that you give the masses a wide variety of opinions. You're going to have people automatically fearful of Superman. That's fine. But you're also going to have people who do trust Superman, like, show the both
Yeah.
sides. That's what I'm saying. When you have a scene like that, where you have like, oh, he destroyed Star Labs, and everybody's automatically like, oh, yep, he's dangerous, he's evil. It's like, again, that's awfully convenient. I feel like a lot more people would be, wait a minute, let's see the footage. I don't like, because up until that point, Superman has been a good guy. He's been saving the city. So some people would be, hesitant, at the very least, hesitant, being like, I don't know if that's true. Like, just
Yeah.
play into the both sides aspect. That's all. That was my
Yeah.
biggest problem with that, is that they
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Which I think the James Gunn movie is going to do
Sure.
that, as I've seen promised, which I'm looking forward to that. But
Yeah.
what we've got in the show, okay, it's I think that scene with the crowd booing at him in retrospect is really weird, especially since, like you said, they don't really have any scenes in the show where they show both sides
Yeah.
simultaneously.
It's
I
like,
think like the other as yeah, but I think like the other aspect of it is like that I think is interesting and could work, and it's is like where Luth or it's established that most of the masses do trust him.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Pentagon that doesn't because of Lex's fear mongering, and ultimately what that does is that even if Waller's out of the picture, they're just going to keep funding Luthor and his machinations to take down Superman. I think that's the driving force that's going forward, and I think that's interesting because a lot of people out there in the world don't want a war. They don't want to have a war, and a lot of people are good at heart. It's just that our government and the Pentagon don't have people's best interests at heart a lot of the time.
Right, exactly.
So this show is kind of playing around for like this a little bit where they don't care if Waller tortured a bunch of people underground because that was supposed to benefit them, and now Task Force X is doing something to benefit Superman. They don't care how prisoners get treated. They're going to give Luthor what he wants if he appeals to their senses. And I that's something that I missed when I was first watching season 2, and it's something that I've been appreciating more as time goes on. I just think that whole scene could have been framed better,
Absolutely.
especially with like Hank Henshaw, who is supposed to be, part of Star Labs, their PR manager basically, and they make his turnaround against Superman seem like really jarring. Like I
Yeah.
have experience with Hank Henshaw in the comics, since I guess this is sort of relevant since he's a quasi villain in this. So Hank Henshaw becomes the cyborg Superman because of his hatred for Superman, because he blames Superman for his wife dying after one of his space adventures and committing suicide.
Okay.
So I think what this show is trying to do, and why they took the Metallodrone approach, is they're turning Hank into this military dude who really doesn't like Superman's guts, and they're basically taking a lot of John Corbin's characteristics and applying them to Cyborg Superman later on, so
Hmm.
that way they can better differentiate the Metallos and Cyborg Superman.
Yeah.
But
I guess I can see
I
that.
think what we have so far, yeah, sorry. I think what we have so far just could have been fleshed out better in season 2, to be honest.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
that's
a lot of
yeah.
my issues with season 2 are in the earlier episodes. Again, the eligible bachelor bullshit, the fucking pacing of the third episode, just it yeah, there's just too much going on, but it's all well worth it for the second half of season 2 because whole mama.
Ooh. Yeah. Season 2, second half, I'll just say Kara, my favorite character in the show. I love her so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I don't like the eligible bachelor episode, but it's made all the more. It's made just fine enough because of her inclusion. Her scenes with Jimmy, where they're bonding over, going around Metropolis. I love that. Like that's what I
Yeah.
love about this episode. Not the
Yeah,
eligible bachelor bullshit.
it's so good.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that she immediately assumes that Jimmy is the leader of Earth.
Because he's the leader of the planet.
Yeah, and she keeps calling him Jimmy Flamebird because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, he said that he's head of the Flamebird division, and that's kind of like a Krypton where each of the divisions and sectors of that planet, like the House of L, they're named after the last names of
Mm,
those leaders. So Jimmy Flamebird, that's really cute.
yeah.
I love Kara getting introduced to ice cream and hot dogs and
Mint
just a
chocolate
bunch of the
chip.
other sites in Metropolis.
Yeah.
Yep, mint chocolate chip.
Yeah, I really like it because it's kind of similar to her characterization in Supergirl the movie, um, but like I feel as though she's definitely portrayed more as a warrior than just this ditzy idiot she is in the movie. Um,
Right.
I feel like here it makes a lot more sense why she's a little awkward. She's obviously been trained to be a warrior. She doesn't know how to express her feelings properly. Um, I love the black suit. I think it's a great suit, and I love because it's uh, they do change it at the very end, spoiler alert, where she does get the classic blue and red suit. And I was kind of disappointed by that because it's like, I kind of liked the black. It was different. It was able, you could have her just like kind of showing off her Kryptonian roots. But I get it. You change it to blue and red to symbolize that she's going down her own path, similar to what Clark is doing. So I get it. But I just really like the black suit for the majority of the season. It was awesome.
Yeah. I really like the black suit too, though I will say I also love the new suit a lot for just one little detail. Making her cape look like a scarf is adorable.
Sure.
I love it.
Sure. That's cute. I like that too. And I do like her characterization, how she's kind of awkward and kind of weird, but then when she finally meets Clark for the first time, and her true intentions come out, where it's like, I'm here to bring you back to father, and we're gonna take over this world. It's like, oh fuck. And
yeah. And and I was worried about this like characterization for her at first, because it's like, okay, this is really cool, but how are you going to make her act this malicious while trying to make her sympathetic? And thankfully, right after one of the weakest episodes of the show, we get probably the best episode of the show.
Yeah.
The Machine Who Would Be Empire.
This is my personal favorite of the episode of the series. Like, I was thinking about it, this absolutely is my favorite episode, where it's just Clark and Kara bonding, and then we meet Brainiac officially. Like, what an awesome episode. I loved it initially because I love that they weren't trying to balance out subplots. They kept it focused on just Clark and Kara throughout most of the episode until they meet Brainiac. So it's just them. You obviously get less characters, but more focus on specific characters, and that's more important to me.
Right. And it's like, what I really love with the characterization with Kara in this episode in particular, where they keep the ball rolling with what was established in episode 5. She wants to take Clark to Brainiac so that way they can supposedly conquer some planets and build a brand new empire. But then it becomes even clearer, she mainly thinks this way just because of her being raised by Brainiac. She thinks that the planets being conquered by her and Brainiac are actually prosperous and thriving in this empire. And she acts this coldly towards Clark because she doesn't want to bring her guard down, because Brainiac makes her feel bad about that.
Yeah.
He makes her feel like that she's not a true Kryptonian warrior. And it's only when talking with Clark more that she's able to get out of that shell a little bit and have some really good bonding moments between both of them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Kara is able to challenge Clark on his beliefs, like whether even if his parents love him, they kind of diminished and helped him hide his powers more, which Clark kind of has an understanding as to why with how people treat him on Earth, but Kara doesn't. And then that plays into him feeling more rejected from Earth as time goes on. Really, this episode does really good stuff with both of them.
So good. Yeah, I do like the aspect of Kara kind of believing in Krypton. She's not doing this because she hates Earth. She's doing it because she loves Krypton. She actually does see what she's doing as being prosperous for both worlds. Very Le Silence de la Mer of that, I must say. Obviously, that's a pretentious French film about Nazis from the 40s. But it's an aspect that movie does explore an aspect of that, where like you have a character who you should hate because they have these, fascist ideals, but they explain them in ways where you're just like, okay, I can kind of see why you think what you're doing is good. Obviously, you're not doing good things. Just a quick little review of that movie. Great movie. I highly recommend it. But anyway, no, I think this episode does explore that very well, because Kara does truly believe in what she's fighting for until she sees the results of what she and Brainiac have been doing. And that is all the worlds they thought were prosperous are actually just barren wastelands where nothing's going on because they've been abandoned.
Which leads to a crown jewel of the latter half of season 2. Brainiac himself.
I love Brainiac. I have no qualms calling him my favorite villain of the show so far. Like, holy shit.
Same here.
Not only
Same here.
not only is
so
it
goddamn good.
Not only is it a great vocal performance by Michael Emerson, just fantastic. But the character design is really cool. I love it's different than other Brainiacs we've gotten before. You obviously get the 3 dots that, was in Superman the Animated Series. But his design is vastly different. I love just how robotic and calculated he is, because that's what he is. He's an AI created by Krypton, and just because he's so mechanical, he has one set of directives, and that is to bring about the prosperity of Krypton no matter what.
Right. Yeah, which is why, spoilers, but they really hold out Brainiac's intentions until the very final episode, and then it all clicks, where Krypton, as it birthed more, sure, it was a planet that was born on a lot of war and destruction, and a lot of soldiers still committed to that, but a lot of the people actually living on Krypton were living more prosperous lives. It was Brainiac that was plunging the planet more and more into war.
Yeah.
And then when they finally got into a war that they couldn't win, they had to sign a peace treaty that would decommission Brainiac, only for him to basically commit Kryptonian genocide and kidnap Kara.
So, the twist of the whole series, for that matter, is that Brainiac destroyed Krypton. Krypton didn't blow up because of just natural causes, just nature being random and quirky. It's like, no, Brainiac actively blew up everything in order to then restart it, which kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie, kind of a crazy interpretation of the destruction of Krypton.
Yeah, and I know people are like more mixed on, having actual villains destroy Krypton instead of natural causes, but I think MAWS has taught me that it can actually work super well.
Yeah, because they do. Yeah, it's obviously different from other. Like, I like the idea of Krypton just destroying because they literally couldn't stop it. Like, this was this advanced society of aliens who just have conquered everything, but they couldn't conquer the universe because the universe got back to them. It's like, this is something you cannot conquer. But like, within the context of the show and what it's established, Brainiac being the cause of the death of Krypton, sure, I'm fine with that. Like, it's for this interpretation of these specific characters, I'm fine with him being the sole cause of the destruction of Krypton.
Right. And then you also have like a bunch of these other aspects of Brainiac. Like in episode 8, where he literally goes into Clark's mind trying to take over his body and just doing some really schmucky, manipulative, gross stuff. Like, that's another great thing about Michael Emerson's performance. He does a super good job just coming off as this slimy groomer for the character. Yeah. It's so good.
While still remaining robotic, because you got to remember, this is a machine. So, like, it doesn't really have emotions. He sort of does, because there is a scene in one of the episodes where he can't bring himself to kill Kara. Like, he actually does have some form of love for her, quote unquote. And I guess that's where you get the intelligence part of his artificial intelligence. But at the end of the day, he's still artificial. He has no actual love for this character. What's more important is his prime directive, and that is to bring about the prosperity of Krypton. So ultimately, right, no matter how he feels about Kara, it doesn't matter. What matters is his prime directive.
Yeah. And then you just have him constantly beating down on Clark, literally manipulating and rewriting so many of his emotions, which I could also say is actually not a bad use for what's kind of a clip show episode.
Yeah.
Like, I actually kind of like how it's used.
Yeah. It's not as good as the Simpsons clip show episode where it's the April Fool's episode, but I think this is a close second.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah. But just twisting all these memories and just going, no one wants you. No one loves you.
You should kill yourself.
Yeah, and just telling him constantly that he's just rejected. And I feel like I could quote so many moments, other moments that Brainiac has in the show, like in episode 6, where literally quite possibly the creepiest moment in the episode where Kara goes back to see Clark getting caged after being mind wiped, by the way, which Brainiac does a lot, and then he
Yeah.
goes up to her and says, "Oh, Kara, did such a wonderful job bringing your cousin home." Like,
Mm.
damn.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then episode 10, which actually almost made me cry when I first saw it. You literally see Kara going into her mind back when she was a kid, and Brainiac berating her, like going, "You are stupid, you are weak, you are a failure, and your only ounce of worth is in obedience.
Oof.
Without
Oof.
me, you are alone."
God damn.
God damn.
Yeah.
So good.
I didn't realize this
And
show's
like,
writing was that fire.
yeah, and it's like this is the highest highs that season 2 has because
Yeah.
Brainiac is such a good villain.
Yeah.
I love him a lot.
Yeah. This rules so hard. I love this characterization of him. It's so manipulative and so slimy and just rules. I just everything about it just awesome. The character design, the writing, the vocal performance, just everything rules. This is what I would this is like the best parts of what this show has given me. Like for all my issues, and I still stand by my issues and still stand by, this is not my definitive Superman, but like this stuff has made it absolutely worth watching through the whole series.
Right. And then on top of Brainiac just absolutely ruling over the show, you get to develop Kara's character even more,
Mm-hmm.
where Kara ultimately it starts drifting away from Brainiac when she realizes that he was the one who made her destroy those worlds. Jimmy teaches her that there's even more stuff to live for.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have her finally fighting against Brainiac, and then you have the really, oh my God, her stuff in the finale is so good. Like Brainiac literally controlling her one last time as Clark tries to reach out to her again while trying to not even land a single punch on her.
Right.
Then defying Brainiac, pushing him out close to the sun. And oh my God, the scene where they find out that the sun is the source of their power after Kara literally takes a laser shot for Clark. Oh my, it's so good. It's so good. And then they get their new suits. They go Super Saiyan, and then Kara literally rips through Brainiac, sends him hurling into the sun while keeping his core. And then Kara ends up back in Smallville, finally part of the main crew and the whole family. While
Mhm.
Clark finally has someone who he doesn't need to hold back against anymore.
Yeah.
I love Kara so much. I love season 2 so much in spite of its lows. I
Yeah.
love this
Well,
show.
it's like we were saying, season one is definitely a lot more consistent, and season two's lows are way lower than season one's, but season two's highs are way higher than season one's highs. So it's insane.
Exactly. And my God.
Yeah.
I think that if I did have to pick least favorite episodes from the show, yeah, it would probably a good chunk of them would be from season 2. Definitely the Bachelor episode,
Ugh.
the definitely Full Metal Scientists,
Mm-hmm.
and the Kiss Kiss Fallen Portal episode from season 1. But if I had to choose my top 3 favorite episodes of the show as a whole, it'd definitely be Machine Who Would Be Empire,
Yeah.
Olsen's 11, and My Adventures with Supergirl. Just super fun and great episodes all around. I love them.
Honestly, I'd probably say, yeah, the latter half of season two is probably some of my favorite episodes of the whole show. So, yeah, it's just made me forget about kind of the highs of season one, which is kind of a shame. Season one still had some very impressive highs. Like, I still love the Thanksgiving episode. I think that was a very smart episode to end the season on, rather than having it
Don't tell
be.
anyone, Jimmy. but this turkey is refusing to come to temp.
Oh man, yeah, I love that. And Jonathan Kent, he's obsessed with the
Yeah.
turkey.
Yeah, I guess I can talk about the Kemp parents a little bit.
Yeah.
I love them.
Hmm.
I
I
love that Martha is the one who gets like the most attention, the more attention in the show with like a bit more development than John has, and then with John is like the a virgin. Maybe you should have let them die, Jonathan, versus the Chad Turkey obsessed Jonathan.
yeah, I do hope they go a little bit more with Jonathan. I did like how in one of the flashbacks, when Clark is showing Kara, it's him playing catch with Jonathan, and Jonathan gets the most like vocal lines in that scene. Um, so that's great. But like, yeah, I do think, yeah, early on it's mostly Martha. I do like that Martha kind of gives him his red underwear on the outside. Because when he transforms into his suit for the first time, it's very Snyder Cavill looking, where it's all blue, and she's like, "You need some red underwear on the outside." It's like random, but yes, he does, because that's Superman's look. He's the red underwear.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of like scenes like that where it's like, Clark is such a mama's boy, and I find that real funny and
Mhm.
really endearing.
Yeah. But I do like Jonathan Kent in this as well. He's very likable, and you see why, where Clark then got certain aspects. Like that's his parents, the people who raised him.
Right. Yeah. Like another one of my personal favorite aspects of the finale is when Kara first wakes up and then she's just immediately bombarded with affection from Jonathan and Martha, which is
Mhm.
a very stark contrast from the abuse that she endured from Brainiac. I really love that moment a lot.
Yeah,
She
great.
finally knows what love is.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a really great finale for the season. It also plays out as kind of a great finale for the show. Obviously, we're getting more. But had they not come up with the season 3, like if they were not just going to decide not to do a season 3, this would have been a great finale for the show, I think.
Yeah. And I genuinely love that a lot because I don't think I could express my annoyance quite enough with having watched both the first two seasons of Young Justice and being experienced a bit with the awful revival seasons and realizing, oh, uh Greg Wiseman is just going to keep introducing plot points that never get resolved and also just constantly have seasons that end on just no resolution because his whole mentality with that is like it's not like it's in reality nothing ever ends and it's like you're writing fiction, bro. Just end your fucking story.
Oh, I'm glad this fantasy show has very realistic depictions of stuff. That's always fun to see. Greg Wiseman,
Yeah,
more
I
like Greg
know.
Stupidman.
Yeah, yeah. Am so yeah, I'm just glad that MAWS actually got solid finale.
Sure.
It's kind of like what you kind a solid finale, kind of like those Smurf movies. I really like them a lot.
God damn it. No, yeah, you know what? But even though I'm still very much looking forward to season 3, I will definitely pick this up. Again, I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm as in love with this show as maybe you are. Clearly not. You are the biggest Moz fan I think out there that I know personally.
Right.
Um, but I'm very glad I picked up the show. I'm glad I gave it a chance. And I'm glad that despite my issues, the good is very, very, very good. Um, and I think moving forward, even if this is not going to become my definitive Superman, because I think there are, like the style, I've grown to it, but I still think the style is a little too early 2020s for me to really get something out of it. Now, with that said,
Right.
I said this initially, this very much feels like a show. Like, this very much feels like what you would do with Superman in the early 2020s, akin to the Fleischer cartoons or what they did with Superman in the early 40s. Like, they're very much embodying of those eras very well. And that's fine. But when it comes to Superman, I feel like I need something a little more timeless. But for what this is, I'm glad I picked it up. I will most certainly continue watching it. I like it. And I'm just so happy we got to talk about it on today's episode.
Yeah, same. But no, actually, no. It's a really bad show because it has child labor in it. Zero
Right.
out of 10.
Right, exactly. This is the only thing to ever feature child labor.
Fucking 11-year-olds as interns.
Yeah. God forbid children have hobbies. And maybe it is child labor, but maybe a child's hobby is child labor. You never know.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So, I agree with you on all that, just a little more passionately.
Mhm.
One of my personal favorite shows of all time at this point. I'm obviously going to try catching up with it as much as I can, and I'm just really glad I removed myself from such a toxic influence because now I can just enjoy this show so much unconditionally and then get other people into the show.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as I am, but just finding more fans of Superman is just always welcome.
Yeah.
And the last thing I could talk about is that this show actually does have a bit of his physical media to its name. So, season 2 unfortunately has not had a physical release yet, which I am concerned about since it's been over a year now since it first aired, and I'm hoping that they plan to do something soon. But I might have some idea of why they wouldn't go with it because I think it would depend on how well the season 1 DVD did, which the season 1 DVD came out. I own it. I'm not a big fan of this DVD, sadly.
No, I remember you sending a picture of it to me being like, hey, now we can do a episode of Too Many Movies on it. I'm like, I don't really want to buy a crappy DVD of this show. That looks awful.
Yeah.
I'm glad we
Yeah.
eventually talked about it, but obviously for different reasons, because we're going to be talking about a different DVD later on. But yeah, no, that is frustrating.
Yeah, and I matured since then, and even then, quickly I made my own judgment. This is just not a good release for season 1, and by that I mean it's very. I have I think the original release for the DVD where it's not even a clear DVD cover, despite episode names being on the back side of the cover, which is, that's rough.
Yeah.
But also, there's no behind the scenes or extras on this DVD release. It's just 10 episodes split between 2 DVDs with genuinely some of the worst 720p quality that I've seen. Especially when it's way higher quality on Max. And I only own it because, unfortunately, for as good as this show is, this DVD release for season 1 is the only way that you can watch the show without a Max subscription or piracy. And I really hope that this show gets at least some more physical preservation efforts or better ones before inevitably being loose to the digital aether, because come on, we've seen this a lot with a bunch of other Max and Disney Plus originals. It's a bad practice. I don't want another Infinity Train.
It is a bad practice. I think one of the biggest problems with the getting these shows lost in the ether is that a lot of these shows are terrible. So you don't get a lot of people defending these shows, but this is an example of something genuinely good, and they should put it, because at least with Disney Plus, a lot of those originals are utter dog shit. But Andor got its own season 1 Blu-ray release, and I own it. That's how I initially watched Andor. And so here's a very genuinely great show from Disney Plus actually getting a genuinely amazing physical release. And it's wow, Disney did that. Disney of all companies.
I think you mean terrible, boring show that is meant for normies.
There's no lightsabers. How is the Star Wars? Yeah.
I'm very nervous in MAWS's case in particular, because it's one thing if it's just bad shows. It's another
Right.
thing if it happens to something like this or
Yes.
Infinity Train,
Right. Yeah,
which
no.
already has
No, it
happened.
has happened to that, and that's a shame because yeah, no, these are examples because it can affect good shows. Um and that is a shame. Yeah, no, I think this absolutely deserves a better physical media release. Like fucking Smiling Friends got a pretty good physical release. It got its own Blu-ray. Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I just really hope that Moz, actually gets
Mhm.
another opportunity to really shine on physical media because it really deserves it. But you know what? Hot Topic is giving us t-shirts, so anything's possible. We're getting more mainstream appeal. Last thing I do have to say for this show that I completely forgot to mention, Perry White rocks in this show.
Yeah, I like him. I
Yeah.
think he gets a lot of better scenes than Lawrence Fishburne did in either of his adaptations. But like, yeah, I like this Perry White. I think he's a very funny, grumbling like he's obviously very miserable around these bubbly characters, and I think that's a very funny contrast. And they actually play into
Yeah.
that, and it's fun.
Yeah, and I like it when Jimmy complains to White that the News Legion isn't listening to him, and then White just bursts out into
That's a
laughter.
great scene. I love that too. I was just like, yeah, good for you, Perry. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything on the top of my mind I can say for the show.
Hmm.
Great show. Warner Brothers, you have a real gem on this. Just keep this theme going, especially on the DC front. I'm really hyped for Superman, but as before that, it's been so fucking bad this decade.
Yeah,
It's been so bad
I mean,
for DC this decade.
it was yeah, it was bad last decade too, but yeah, this decade, yeah, no, it's been pretty barren. I'm glad I watched the show though because I'm just going off of DC movies that I've been watching and that yeah, the movies have been utter dog shit for a long time.
Yep.
Um
Microwave baby.
Microwave Baby, exactly. But I'm glad I was able to see a genuinely well put together show with very likable characters. And it's just, yeah, no, it was a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, no, I just hope they keep that momentum going because if it doesn't, man, wouldn't that be fucking depressing?
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully they do keep it. If the show does get a better physical release at some point, I'm buying it.
Mhm. I wouldn't mind adding, yeah,
Yeah.
like a good Blu-ray collection. I would add that, sure. If it's a good Blu-ray collection. If not, I'm totally fine with leaving it on HBO Max for me to revisit time and time again.
Right. But yeah, definitely a show worth checking out. I highly recommend.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
pretty much all I have to say for Moz.
Cool. 2.5
Which,
hours worth of Moz.
hmm which I suppose leads us to the other goated Superman show, doesn't it?
Ooh. Now here's where I hop in. Excited as fuck. So, uh when I was a kid, I had Superman the Last Son of Krypton, the full-length animated feature on DVD, which is just the first 3 episodes of Superman the animated series strung together into, a movie. Um
Right.
so this I grew up watching a lot. I had it on one of those classic clicky Warner Brother cases. I don't know where it went. I think I lost it over the years. So what I did was earlier this year, I found it on Bull Moose. I bought it. It's not a classic clicky case. It is a kind of crappy 2010s DVD release, but it is the Last Son of Krypton. So it is the first 3 episodes strung together in a movie, and rewatching it, I grew up watching it, but rewatching it, I realized this did a lot of heavy lifting for me loving Superman as a character. I must say,
Yep.
yeah, no, this,
Yeah.
I, so, yeah, no, I fucking love this movie. I'm gonna call it a movie because it is technically 3 episodes of the show, but I'm gonna call it a movie because you can log it on Letterboxd as a full movie. It is technically 64 minutes long, meaning it's feature length. So I'm going to call it a movie. Um, and I'm not talking about the animated series as a whole because I haven't seen it. I do plan on watching it in its entirety because I've watched the first 3 episodes today as episodes, not as the full-length feature. So I do plan on watching through the series, but I can only talk about it as a movie. So that's what I'm going to keep to discussing it as. As a movie, it rules. I love this movie
Absolutely
a lot.
agree.
Dude,
Yeah.
holy shit. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can actually add on to that a bit because I have seen Superman the animated series as a whole, so I can make my own judgment. And just going off of what I alluded to earlier, so all that gushing I did for MAWS.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, but for an even better and more flawless show. I fucking love Superman the animated series. It's probably my favorite DC show at this rate. It is so good.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah. And this pilot, this movie, this story is just a perfect way to start off the series. It's so good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's honestly the Superman origin I think I associate most with the character. Like, truly thinking about it, because that's the thing I've been trying to solve with Superman Summer, the Summer of Superman, is I've been trying to figure out, okay, who is the character I think of most when it comes to Superman? I thought it wasn't really Fleischer, because I love Fleischer's cartoons. I loved watching those growing up, but it wasn't really what I thought of when I thought of Superman. And I love the Christopher Reeve film when I first watched it, and I watched it as a kid, but it's not really one I returned to over and over again. Obviously, right. I wasn't the biggest fan of Man of Steel or BVS growing up. Superman Returns, I only watched once as a kid, and never really again. Superman 2, I watched and thought it was weird as a kid. I didn't watch Superman's 3 or 4 or Supergirl until way into adulthood. So, like, what was my Superman? Honestly, I think it was this. I think this is what I associated the most, because I remember watching this a ton as a kid. This right. specific movie, and yeah. So first of all, this is my Krypton. I have no qualms calling this my definitive Krypton. Like, when I think Krypton, yep. I think of Last Son of Krypton's version, where it's you got the first half an hour is just we're spending it all on Krypton. Jor-El is the main character. You have Brainiac, you have Laura, you have Sullivan, Laura's father, played by Tony Jay of all actors. Like, yeah, no, this is my definitive Krypton. So
it's such a gorgeous Krypton.
Gorgeous too. Krypton. Gorgeous. Very, very like comic booky looking, like very kind of sci-fi comic booky, very much like kind of like 1950s sci-fi almost. Like, I'm thinking, like maybe even Flash Gordon kind of looking, kind of sci-fi.
Right.
Yeah. Like, it has that.
The backdrop especially kind of reminds me of Flash Gordon with like this really mesmerizing choice of color.
This old retro looking sci-fi. Yeah, it looks really immaculate. It's awesome looking. And I do like, so first off, we got to talk about Jor-El. So Jor-El in this show is played by Christopher McDonald, who is really random when I think about it, because actually recently, I got to bring this up. I recently watched Happy Gilmore for the first time, Adam Sandler movie. Hilarious film. I'll just say no duh, because it's one of those beloved Adam Sandler movies. It rules. And he plays Shooter McGavin in that movie, Christopher McDonald.
Right.
And he's also the main villain in Flubber. He's what the fuck is his name in Iron Giant? Ken Mansley. He plays Mansley in Iron Giant. Yeah, Ken
there
Mansley.
You go.
Yeah. Where's the giant, Mansley? Yeah. So he's obviously very good at playing these douchebag characters, these douchebag antagonists, Christopher McDonald, and he rules. He's great. He's great in these roles. But I love him as Jor-El, because even though he can play these really shit-eating grin, kind of detestable antagonists, he is such a good Jor-El in this. Like, I love this Jor-El. He's so likable. He's so just like very confident in what he believes in, but also just like he embodies everything you want out of a Jor-El character. He's this likable, very smart and intelligent character, but also very passionate for what he believes in, and that being Krypton, that being his family mostly. He loves his family.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
this is my definitive Jor-El. I love him the most. I love him more than Marlon Brando as Jor-El, and that's huge, you know? Because
Honestly, I think I might agree with you there, especially since the character work for Jor-El in this episode is so good.
yes.
Like especially just like with the more flawed aspects of him,
Hmm.
his big flaw is that obviously he ends up being right, but the main reason why the council fears him is that he can never be wrong.
Right.
He
Yeah.
doesn't accept being wrong,
Hmm.
and that's partly why what ends up destroying Krypton, because Brainiac it tries disproving him, which sends Jor-El to investigate even further. But because of that, the council doesn't listen to Jor-El at all.
Yeah.
Because yeah, if you have a scientist who's right most of the time, telling you that your planet is literally going to blow up, yeah, you're going to be very worried. Very.
Yeah. And plus you have Brainiac, the all-knowing AI that you invented to be all-knowing, saying, no, it's okay, guys. You guys are good. It's like, well, I guess I trust this guy more than I trust human error over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's a great aspect. And what I love a lot about Jor-El's plan and being like, no, listen, like the world is going to blow up. I like the detail of when he's like, look, we can still save everybody. We just got to put them all in the Phantom Zone. And they're just like, what the fuck? You're out of your goddamn mind. But
yeah, which is a really bad idea, because not only are there just a ton of criminals in there, but also the Phantom Zone is known to be like a literal hell pit where just staying in there just deteriorates the whole body.
Sure. And I agree. I mean, luckily they don't go through with that plan because, well, everybody dies. But I like that he's still willing to be like, look, we can save everybody. I fully believe that we can. And I like that in contrast to fucking Man of Steel, where Jor-El's just like, no, everybody's already dead. It's like, but God damn it.
Yeah.
So I much prefer, like, yeah, it's a terrible idea, put everybody in the Phantom Zone, but like, at least he's trying to be, you know, at least he's trying to save everybody. You know, that's who Jor-El is. He's this good, kind-hearted man trying to do the right thing, much like his son eventually becomes. So you want your Jor-El to reflect your Superman. Obviously, there's going to be differences, sure. Obviously, because they're raised differently. He's obviously been raised on Krypton, and Kal-El Clark is being raised on Earth. But you still need that. You still need that like core that like, oh yeah, that's absolutely the son of Jor-El.
Right. And then you also have Brainiac.
We got to talk about Brainiac. Holy shit.
Oh my God.
Holy fucking shit. So obviously, I'm not ready to say who my definitive Brainiac is, because I think Michael Emerson's in MAWS was fucking phenomenal, and I still need to see more of Corey Burton's. But so far, I love Corey Burton as Brainiac. I realized his vocal performance really did have an effect on me as a young child, where like, you know, he's this really like, you know, with Michael Emerson, you could tell he was a very robotic kind of performance, but there was still a little bit of emotion there. Here, there's no emotion to be found. Like Corey Burton delivers it so monotone, and it becomes threatening. It's insane.
Yeah, especially when especially when Jor-El starts investigating, and the more that Brainiac actively pushes him to go like, stay the fuck out of my business. It's so good. And literally framing Jor-El for going into his fucking files that he's downloading to the satellite.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. And I love that Brainiac, you know, despite being a machine, I not only do, again, I love the vocal performance. I love the visuals of it just being the 3 dots, and it's 3 blinking dots, and that's it. Like, great visual design, simplistic, but great. I love that his ultimate plan is that he knows Jor-El is right, and he knows ultimately it doesn't matter though, because everybody's dead, considering the amount of time they have left. And so,
right.
And so his ultimate plan is, I'll just lie, but I'm just downloading myself into a satellite, and I'm going to continue the Kryptonian heritage myself, because, you know, he's thinking logically about it. He's like, logically, everybody's dead. I'm going to take things into my own account. Like, because he has that one directive of continuing Kryptonian prosperity.
Yeah. And if he didn't, yeah, and if the council did find out, then they would have rushed him to
Hmm.
follow a new directive to try to get everyone off the planet, thus ended up killing himself too. So why not flee shit while he still could?
Yeah, like just an absolutely diabolical villain, but holy shit, he just in the I realized he's not on screen that long, but from what I remember, like he had a huge impact on me as a kid. So like I love this Brainiac
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. And I can say with full confidence, as a huge fan of the show, he only gets better from here.
Oh,
Trust me.
thank God. That's great. I can't wait. Um yeah, and I do like the ultimate Krypton destruction. Again, they don't do the twist where it's like, oh, it was Brainiac the whole time. I do like they keep it in line where it's like it just blows up because of the universe or slash nature just, you know, being unpredictable and you can't conquer it. Like
Right.
it ultimately conquers Kryptonians. Um and
I think part of it is with the planet getting even more irradiated, which turns
sure.
a lot of the planet's substance into kryptonite.
Right. Okay. That explains why kryptonite is so poisonous later on. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then, yeah. And so, with Brainiac pinning everything on Jor-El, you also managed to have this really compelling first half of the story kind of end off with this really cool action stuff where Jor-El is literally running away from the science police.
Yeah. I've always been kind of weary on how they show that in the different versions of Krypton's destruction because it's like ultimately Krypton is being destroyed. So why do we have to have this action set piece kind of prolonging the inevitable? Um Obviously the more I feel like the biggest offender of that is obviously Man of Steel. I don't mind it as
Right.
much in Superman 78 because they never really the the police never really make it to Jor-El and Lara, so it ultimately didn't matter. Here, it's an exciting chase scene, and yeah, I think it still adds so much to the climax of the episode.
Right. And that also kind of leads to the whole stuff with Lara and Jor-El eventually having to send their son off, which really hits hard in this version
So
because you
incredibly so.
you can yeah, you can tell that they really really love their son, and having to put him to sleep without crypto, mind you, having to keep him behind,
Hmm.
that just, oh yeah, especially considering how prominent crypto can be in other versions, that just, something about that really hits hard
Yeah, and
thinking more about it.
the music is so good. Shirley Walker does the music, or she did the theme. I think somebody else did the music, but the music in the show, holy fucking shit, dude. It goes incredibly hard. You're just
Yeah,
like, God damn.
this goes for both Superman shows, which I neglected to mention with Maz, but the score slaps
Mhm.
so hard.
Yeah, I kind of like this one better. I mean, I like the music in Moz for sure. I think I love the electric guitar and the use of synth, but I much prefer the orchestral version in this show. I think the music just goes incredibly hard. It's like, I mean, I gotta say, this is the third Superman incarnation that has a memorable theme that gets stuck in my head. Fleischer had one, Superman 78 had one, and now this one has one. We're like,
This one.
it's
Da, da, da,
incredible.
da, 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 da,
Yeah,
da.
like the fact that this one character can have three different themes that get stuck in your head, that's incredible. That's an icon.
Yeah, yeah. And even then, the best part is that with like this emotional hook in Last Son of Krypton, is not the last time this episode or the rest of the show does this. I don't even remember if I said this in your server or not, but one of the later episodes, Brave New Metropolis, on rewatch actually got me sobbing like
Nice.
hard. So
Nice. Yeah, no, it hit incredibly hard seeing Lara like seeing Kal-El for one last time, and the tear rolls down, and Jor-El's like, hey, you know, I can kind of put you in the ship, I just need to recalibrate. She's like, no, my love, I'm staying with you. Just like, god damn. It's like, my god, I feel so much more emotion in these 22 minutes than I ever did in the opening or entirety of Man of Steel.
Yeah. Or BVS, or literally fucking anything in the DCEU.
Except for Shazam. I felt some emotion in Shazam, but no, this was still better.
Not on this level.
No, this level, it's like, god damn, this is a show meant for kids in the 90s? God damn.
Yeah. And then that ultimately transitions over to the Smallville part where Clark, or baby Kal-El eventually escapes to, and John and Martha find him.
Yeah, I love this John and Martha. I think they're very, very likable. I like how initially Jonathan's just like, well, he could be Russian, a Sputnik baby. But Martha's just like, no, he's a baby. Like, we got to take care of him. Like, you'd look at him, he's reaching out to you. And I love the detail of him taking the finger, just like cracking it and be like, ow!
We gotta take care of the baby.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a very wholesome moment. Just after the absolute devastation of seeing Krypton blow up, and then you get this very nice moment with Martha and Jonathan. It's like, yeah, this is what Superman is all about.
Right. And then, yeah, one of my personal favorite edits in the episode is when Martha finally decides on a name for him, and then immediately transitions to his high school years.
Yeah,
with the teacher calling out his name.
Actually, I like that because one of the lines she says is like, "How about we name him Christopher?" I'm like, "Oh, like Christopher Reeve, very clever." Oh, yeah. I would have never picked up on that as a kid, but I'm glad I'm watching it as an adult now. Yeah, and then we transition to teenage Clark Kent, played by Max Goof, Jason Marsden.
Amazing casting, by the way.
Oh, he rules. He's a great voice actor. Obviously, when I hear him, I always think of Max Goof, but it's just awesome to think Max Goof becoming Superman.
Yeah. It makes you feel like that this Clark is about to be sent to the electric chair.
Mr. Goof. At least he's not going to the Leaning Tower of Cheesa. How many times have you looked through the women's locker room, Clark? Lana, we're busted. Could you step back a bit, Mr. Kent? You're out of focus. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess man, I gotta rewatch Goofy movies so bad. It's so good.
Such a good movie. I mean, we did a 3-hour and 19-minute episode on it for good reason. Well, we did for both Goofy movies, but still, great episode, great movie.
Yeah, damn good. Yeah, damn good reason. But yeah, I guess that kind of transitions into Lana now, doesn't it?
Yes, Lana. We finally get a good Lana. Well, we don't get a lot of Lana in this movie. We obviously get way less of her in this movie than we do her in Superman 3, but I like what they do with her here better, mostly because I fucking despise Superman 3, as I've said time and time again.
I agree with that, and it's not even like she shows up this much in the episode, though she does in later episodes. Wink, wink, wink.
Okay, good.
Wink, wink, wink.
Excellent.
Yeah, but it's just she cares about Clark a lot. I really love that detail. And also that they made her Mary Jane Watson in this show. I find that very funny.
Yeah, she does look oddly similar to Mary Jane Watson, I will say. Very true.
Why is her hair red? That makes her look a lot like Smurfette.
God damn it. Yeah, no, I do like, because then, we get the great scene of him finally discovering. Well, okay, I guess we should mention he does have a scene where he saves a bunch of people like crashing into a gas station. A little excessive, but it's a good scene.
Brian, look out!
Essentially. But then he reveals to his parents, like, hey, I've been getting stronger every day. I can use heat vision. And they're like, all right, it's time we show you the rocket ship on our barn. It's like, rocket ship? And then you realize, I guess I'm a space alien.
Oh, it looks like a dildo.
Kind of, yeah. And I love this I love this sequence where like he he accesses like their little message to him, and I love the detail of them just kind of like standing there and like kind of looking forward, not really looking at him, because again, it's a pre-recorded message. They wouldn't know where he'd be standing, so they're just kind of looking forward. And so like when he goes up to like kind of get in their face like, hey, I am a human being, you know, he thinks they can see him but they can't, and so they just continue looking forward, not really acknowledging that he moved places. Like that's a great detail. I like that.
Yeah,
because it really hits you hard that like, no, these characters are dead. This is like, you know, this is all fake.
yeah, this is all he has left.
Exactly, especially when Lara is like, we love you, Kal-El, always. She extends her hand out and he goes to hold it, and it's like a hologram, so it goes through. It's just like, fuck.
And you literally have his breakdown right after, which is, oh my god.
Chet, is this justified?
Yeah, it's so good. And that whole pre-recorded scene actually made me something that I realized recently when watching a lot of the Superman stuff. So I noticed, okay, we've gotten like a lot of Jor-El AI recordings and AI ghosts and like a lot of Superman media.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, the most emotive that we've really seen him in is MAWS, I'd say. But but a lot of the stuff that we've seen is just really cold, even if his parents don't really attend it to. This is just all that they have to work with. And this is what makes me love Brainiac as like Krypton's AI so much, because Brainiac wasn't even Krypton's AI before this show. Before this, he was always an alien from Kolu. But here, I realize this works so well because this cold nature of Krypton, that this is all that Clark has left, is exactly what makes him feel so scared and distant sometimes. And this is the exact nature that Brainiac embodies. He embodies the coldness of Krypton and its AI, and I find that really fucking cool.
There you go. Yeah.
And then you have Clark running off, and we gotta talk about his first flight scene. We gotta talk about it.
Again, music goes incredibly hard, especially when he flies over and he's in front of the moon. Like, god damn, it was like, you know, the spectacular 80s and 90s sounding orchestra that you just don't hear this kind of music anymore. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it genuinely just the visual of seeing him just super frustrated and finally jumping over this big pit before looking back, giving it another shot, jumping over it again, and then finding out that he's flying. Like, talk about a first flight scene. Yeah. Truly. Yeah. And then literally just going back to the barn, just ensuring his parents that he's accepted these powers and everything's going to be all right.
Oh, just so incredibly satisfying. Again, the music is swelling. He hugs his parents. It's like, god damn. Again, I felt more emotion for these cartoons than I'd have for a lot of live action Superman movies.
Yeah. Feeling more for a gay ass baby show made for babies. SMH Hal.
I know, I'm sorry. I swear, animation isn't cinema.
You can't just keep watching stuff like this. Or how else will you tell that supreme intellectual adult movies like Max Keeble's Big Move will ever compare to the Smurfs' Baby's First Christmas?
Well, hey, let's not bring Max Keeble's Big Move into this, okay? I'm like the anime guy with the fucking sword. Stay away from my queen.
I have the power of God and Max Keeble on my side.
Me Googles is me name. I like a swampy buck. Okay, anyway. Then we get to Metropolis and the Daily Planet. I like the way they show that time has passed and Superman is Superman now by kind of subtly showing you this this news story of this little girl like falling out of a window and being saved by Superman. She's like, yeah, and this blue angel with red wings came down and saved me. It's like, okay, like planting seeds, very cool.
You're planning them eloquently, might I add.
Oh wow, very much so. And then we were introduced to Lois Lane watching that story and just being like, friendly pigeons. But it's great because that, you know, news story kind of trumps her news story that she's been working on for weeks, which gets her annoyed. I love that. She just bursts in being like, hey, Chief, what the fuck? But I like that because her story kind of plays into the episode, or plays into the movie, I should say. Because she's talking
where
about,
she's uncovering, like, she's uncovering the story about gun smuggling,
right? And that plays later when, you know, the Kasnia or whatever the fuck, later on.
Yeah, when Kasnia's Force Ghost comes over her head and says, "Remember the family Smurf."
Remember, boy, the family Smurfs. But it's great. It's a great introduction to Lois. It's a great scene to show Lois being introduced to Clark. We finally get Clark as Clark. You know, he's no longer a baby or Max Goof. Now he's Clark, played by Tim Daly. Who, Tim Daly, I gotta point out, great actor. He's in The Sopranos. And yeah, I'm thinking of the same guy. Yeah, Tim Daly.
Of course he is.
He's in The Sopranos. He obviously plays a very minor role in The Sopranos. He's not like a major character, but he rules in The Sopranos. Like, I won't give anything away because there's some of the best moments in the show involve him, and I just don't want to give anything away. But just like, goddamn.
Fucking Superman smoking gabagool with Tony Soprano.
Not too far off, but I'll leave it at that.
You know, I just realized why wasn't Superman there on my favorite Mario Kart track, Tony Soprano Island? I find that really weird, to be honest.
You're gonna have to ask James about that.
Yeah. Is he under the Gabagool Bridge?
Maybe. Anyway, so this is our introduction to Clark as Clark Kent, Tim Daly's Clark Kent, and he's very soft-spoken. That's the thing with this Superman. He's not like Reeve or Jack Quaid Superman, where he's this fun, bubbly Superman. He's definitely a lot more serious, very much kind of like Fleischer Superman, where he's kind of this serious, kind of soft-spoken kind of character. That's something I noticed. I feel like this cartoon very much feels like an evolution of the Fleischer cartoons. You know, I feel like a lot of the designs are very similar, you know?
Yeah. And I haven't watched any of the behind the scenes on it yet, but I think I did remember hearing that, a lot of the showrunners were very inspired by the Fleischer cartoons for how they want to take the series.
Which makes total sense, because I feel like the Fleischer cartoons were kind of the most popular Superman media that you had in animation at the time.
Right. And like, personally, I think with my experience for the show, that's what made the first watch through of it kind of tiring, because when you have episodes that follow a lot of the same structure and format, you do kind of get tired of just binging them all in a rapid pace. I think it's definitely a show where a lot of the episodes in general can be appreciated on their own.
Right.
But also it's just best to take your time with it instead of rapid fire, because there's continuity, but all these episodes are largely episodic. So
yeah, and I really love the style, and I love the characterization of Clark being kind of soft-spoken, kind of a lot more subtler, because he definitely makes it his own. This is definitely a very different Superman than we've seen, because it's similar to the Fleischer Superman, where he's soft-spoken, kind of, you know, serious, but there's still a character behind that, whereas, like, you know, in Fleischer, I mean, Fleischer was not concerned with the characterization of Superman. They were just fun little serials you watched for 5 minutes before an actual movie.
Right.
But they still did amazing stuff with that. But what I'm saying here is that the characterization here is much better because the show can actually focus on that. So you have, you know, what you've been given before. You have the teenage Clark stuff that kind of plays into this character. And then you have like little moments. One of my favorite Clark moments in this episode, in this movie, is when he's saving the people on the plane, and he's like trying to kind of lift it up, and he kind of pulls off the tail of the plane, and the plane keeps falling, and he just goes, "Nice one, Clark." Like, that's a cute little human
I
moment for the
love
character.
that moment so much.
Yeah, it's a cute little moment.
That's something I especially noticed on my second rewatch of STAS, where there's still a lot of destruction in Metropolis, a lot of property damage.
Yes.
But you get the impression that it's not Clark just being careless because he still cares about helping people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just him having a harder time with it than other incarnations would.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, like I was thinking, okay, a lot of the climax does have kind of Man of Steel-ish vibes in terms of its destruction, but I never felt like annoyed with it like I would with Man of Steel, where yeah, it feels like Clark is careless for the people around it. It does feel like he's just having a more difficult time trying to save the day, but I know full fact that he would not let anybody die in this situation. Whereas with Man of Steel, Clark, it's like, people died, oh well. Like,
Right. And it's like, this is another thing that I've heard about the show, how the show achieves this, this tension with a lot of the action is actually, ow, I just bit my tongue. Fuck.
Smurf
it's
strike
actually
again.
very similar to, God, yeah, they really did. It's like very similar to what I noticed that they kind of did in the Fleischer cartoons, where they depowered Superman a little bit to be more vulnerable to some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not like obviously just regular ass guns, that's going to be perfectly fine against him. But we kind of see with the Lexo suit that ever since his arrival, Metropolis and the world is just constantly evolving to have more tech that can take him on and set him back.
Right.
Because one of the goals for the show was to get the viewer more invested in the action by buffing all of his villains more.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. And thus that makes his struggles all the more apparent, and more, that makes you want to see him like succeed over those struggles. Like, you want to see him, leap above that sort of stuff in a single bound, one might say.
Yeah, exactly. And even go faster than a locomotive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or more powerful than a locomotive.
Yeah, faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful.
Speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive.
Able to
leap
tall buildings in a single
leap
bound.
Over
this amazing stranger from the planet Krypton, the Man of Steel, Papa Smurf.
Super.
See, I'm onto your game.
Yeah. I'm just kidding, guys. I wasn't here for the Superman stuff at all. Only for the Papa Smurf stuff. All hail Papa Smurf. Yeah. So then we get to the LexCorp showing, which is it just me, or does Lex look a lot like Grouchy?
Grouchy.
Like, yeah. He's like that one Smurf in the in like a lot of Smurf media who's like, I hate this thing.
Yeah. Well, what are Lex's thoughts on the green M&M? Lex Linkara, more like.
Yeah. I mean, he could also be a lot like Greedy, but what are his thoughts on cupcakes then?
Greeny?
Greedy.
Clancy Brown, Lex Luthor. Again, to bring back Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, I fucking loved Clancy Brown as Lex Luthor. You're right, he does use his Mr. Krabs voice at one point. Where I was just like, God damn it. But he rules as Lex Luthor. And I think he was very good in this episode. Obviously a lot more restrained because Lex Luthor is not the main villain. He's just kind of there. But it makes me very excited to see more Lex Luthor in this show.
Right. And like, this is very important from this movie. Lex is a constant thorn in Superman's side.
Yes.
In like the entire show, though the feeling's mutual.
Yeah, much like how Superman's a thorn in Lex's side. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So the whole thing with Lex is that he's unveiling this new robot suit called the Lexo Suit 5000, which is literally the most advanced piece of technology that we've seen in the DCAU thus far. More advanced than anything in BTAS.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that's the thing with this show. Like, obviously, it's the same people behind BTAS, but like this one's definitely a lot more sci-fi heavy. Just because Superman is very much more sci-fi heavy than say Batman on average.
Right. And it's like, I think, yeah, what I went back to earlier, it's like very cool where the moment Superman beats this suit, this is Lex Luthor's drive to just amp up the development of the world into more weapons and supervillains that can take on the Man of Steel.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. And so, but this Lexo suit, Lex doesn't get to use it. It gets stolen by the main villain of this story, John Corbin. Yeah, who later on, as I kind of mentioned, ends up becoming Metallo for the series.
Yeah, I can't believe I never made that connection until now.
Yeah. So this is actually a really cool prequel for him. So because before becoming a metal man, he's wearing a metal suit.
Very good. Yeah. And he's played by Malcolm McDowell, which incredibly random, but that rules because Malcolm McDowell is a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's awesome that he plays John Corbin in this.
Yeah. It's really funny because Corbin wasn't even McDowell's last performance in an animated DC show. He also went on to play Mad Mod in Teen Titans.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is Malcolm McDowell. For years I've always thought of Malcolm McDowell as this prestigious actor who only takes on the best roles. You look at his filmography; he was in a lot of shit after Clockwork Orange. But he's also a prolific voice actor. I mean, because he is a good actor, even if he is in shitty movies. He usually is still a very good actor.
Right. And there's also, and I also love him because he's legitimately in the only Silent Night, Deadly Night movie that I think is actually good. So that's a plus.
Wait a minute. He was in a Silent Night, Deadly Night. Wait a minute. No, he was in Home Alone 5. I see what you did there.
Yeah. No, no, I'm not even kidding. He was in the Silent Night remake.
Oh wait, he was. Oh wait,
he was.
Oh, I thought you were making a joke about Home Alone because he was in Home Alone 5.
No, Silent Night.
Silent Night. Silent Night.
Yeah, there was a remake or reboot of the first movie just called Silent Night, and I genuinely really like this movie, and I find that so weird.
Was it the John Woo movie?
It was made in 2012.
2012. Okay, then no, I'm thinking of something different. Yeah, because I know when it comes to Malcolm McDowell and horror reboots, he was obviously famously in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, but Silent Night, I don't remember this.
Yeah, I'll link it to you later. I recommend checking it out because it's the only Silent Night, Deadly Night movie that I think isn't a total piece of shit.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's a plus.
More than 2?
Yeah, more than 2 and 5.
Ooh,
like genuinely good stuff to work with.
I mean, look, 5
Silent
sucks.
Night.
Yeah, no, 5. Like 2 is genuinely funny, but okay, fair enough. Anyway, yeah. Anyway.
I actually like 5.
Okay.
Most out of the original.
Well, because Pinocchio is trying to impregnate his mother.
Maybe.
What a bizarre series. What happened? What were we talking about? We were talking about Superman.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to Superman.
Yeah, back to Superman. I mean Papa Smurf.
Back to Papa Smurf.
Superman.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, they're both blue.
And red.
And red. God damn it. Anyway, yeah, so John Corbin, I love Malcolm McDowell in this role. I think he brings a sophistication and yet still sliminess to this character. I love it. We got to talk about the boat scene where Lois tries to sneak onto the boat and she talks to Bibbo, the greatest character ever made.
Yeah. Soder.
Yeah, I love that so much. Soder. She'll be all right.
Oh man. I love Bibbo as a character so much in Superman lore just because um okay. So it's like he's literally this sea captain that's just living nearby Metropolis Shore, and he's like genuinely the happiest person in Metropolis. Like he runs his own restaurant, he's a big fisherman, and he's just this jolly old goober.
And
And
he
literally at
gets his
one
own soda.
yeah. And I remember reading in one of the Superman Adventures comics, which is like the tie-in comics for this particular series.
Mm.
It shows everyone's dreams of what they want. Clark, I still remember this, like Clark's dream, Lois's dream, and Lex's dream. And everyone's dream is something unique and different. Except for Bibbo's dream, where he's just dreaming of sleeping in the one place that he's already sleeping in.
Just with the soda.
Literally the happiest man ever. And I got like the funniest idea ever, where like he didn't show up in MAWS yet, only just some small references that you wouldn't even know about. But like I told this to my friends, but I genuinely think it would be like the funniest shit if Bibbo was in MAWS, played by Clancy Brown, using his Mr. Krabs voice.
Superman, me boy.
Ahoy, Jimbo, you're 2 seconds late for work. Get in the kitchen and make me some money.
Shut up, Mr. Krabs. Shut the fuck up.
I can't believe it, Mr. Bibbo. $1,000 for a ski boat ride with free roam, Mr. Olson. With free roam.
I mean, we
I
talked
need this to manifest so bad.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about the climax, but I do like when Superman comes in to save Lois. And you know he's faster than a speeding bullet. Great detail. And I do like that scene because then Lois is able to help him out, like with she knocks that hired goon trying to get the bazooka on Superman with the fucking
faster
cane.
faster than a speeding bullet and more powerful than Gutsy Smurf.
Sure. Technically.
But yeah, then you have like the whole scene where John Corbin literally brings the fucking mech out onto the city, and he tell the Regent that his suit is coming to him via special delivery.
Yeah, great, just slimy delivery there, so good. And then we get Superman fighting the mecha suit. It's great. It's good cartoon fun, and it's an exciting climax for the episode. It's an exciting climax for the movie, technically, because remember, it's still a movie because it's a feature length with the 3 episodes strung together. So it's a great climax because you have the character of Superman taking on his biggest challenge yet of the episode.
Right. And it literally ends with him ripping off each of the limbs for the suit, blowing it off the building, ripping John Corbin out of the suit, and then saying, "Want to go a few rounds without the suit?"
Oof.
Too bad.
Incredibly cold moment. I loved it. Yeah. And I like that detail that he's destroying the suit, but still willing to save John Corbin, because that is very much what Superman would do. Like, he's not trying to kill the villain. He's trying to save him.
Yeah. And well, spoilers, but that aspect does get more tragic and muddied once Corbin loses his humanity later in the show, but you'll see soon enough.
I can't wait.
Yeah. And then this wraps up the whole plot with Luthor. So the reason why Corbin stole the Lexo suit in the first place was a super elaborate scheme that Lex had to sell the Lexo suit to Kasnia via Corbin stealing it, because there's a bit of an embargo between the U.S. and Kasnia. Ties are pretty cut so far, and Lex cannot legally sell anything to Kasnia. So what he could do is have the suit stolen by Casnia, make money off of that, and then the government can give him even more to build a stronger Lexo suit for them.
Mhm.
And then Superman just absolutely throws that off balance, which leads into Lex Luthor's biggest arc into villainy.
Mhm. He had to eat $1 billion.
Best billion I've ever spent.
Yeah. Lex, where'd all
Yeah.
this $1 billion go? I don't know.
And then you have just a whole moment where with Superman just literally flying outside of Lex's window, and Lex does his whole monologue to him.
Yeah.
And when offering Superman with a business proposition, he snaps and goes, "Say something." Then Superman smashes the model and goes, "I'll be watching you, Luthor."
Great moment. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
good. It's a great way to establish that, like, oh, more is to come. I remember being a kid and thinking that, yeah, more was to come. I obviously didn't really put two and two together that this is, these were pilot episodes for a TV show. But like, I still think that's a great moment at the end to be like, we're wrapping up this story, but more is to come if you're interested in seeing.
Yep. And then that's not even the very moment that this whole movie ends on,
Mm.
which leads us back into Brainiac.
Oh, dude, this part scared the shit out of me as a kid. Where like the fucking purple jelly aliens come across his satellite. They bring him on board, and they're just like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." They're like speaking their alien language, and then Brainiac breaks out and fucking kills them. Literally, their purple blood gets
Yeah.
splattered everywhere. Like even as a kid, even though I know it was like purple blood, it wasn't red blood, but it was still like, Jesus Christ, it was insane to see as a kid.
And all you see is just this grotesque shadow of Brainiac coming out with these gross tentacles
Mm-hmm.
as he starts manning the ship and starts building from scratch essentially.
Yeah, great tease at the end to just be like, oh, there's more to come. But again, as a kid, I still didn't put two and two together, and I still felt satisfied with what the story and where the story ended for this. So yeah, no, this is just perfect, perfect, perfect. That's all I have to say.
Yeah,
What a fucking animated feature this is.
yeah, absolutely perfect pilot to one of the greatest animated shows of all time. I
Yeah.
cannot stress that enough.
Yeah. So this is definitely. And so again, I've been calling it a movie, and I still would call it a movie because it's a full length feature animated. It says full length animated feature, um, and I think regardless of where it went with the show, I have yet to see that. I still think on its own, these first three episodes make such an engaging and fun and entertaining Superman story that I probably honestly prefer this over the 78 film, which is nuts.
I genuinely do not blame you at all. For
Yeah.
me personally, I haven't placed it on like my favorite movies list yet, though I might at some point. But honestly, I wouldn't blame you at all. Like STAS might I need to probably watch it all the way through one more time, but it might genuinely be one of my personal favorite Superman adaptation, like top three at least. It's
Yeah.
a show that's become a massive inspiration for me.
Yeah. Because
Just
you go ahead.
just figuring out trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do with Superman? How do I want to plot this out? And how do I do my own spin on it? I just think back to Superman, the animated series, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this again with my own spin on it because the structure that STAS has is perfect.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
I feel like through watching through a lot of Superman Summer stuff, like, the Fleischer cartoons, the 78 film, aspects of some of Superman 4, Superman Returns, maybe even Supergirl, MAWS, and this, like, I've been trying to figure out, like, okay, it seems as though I don't really have an idealized perfect Superman movie. I have all these different pieces of media that have elements that I love. But if I did have to come up with a perfect Superman movie, for me personally, I think this is the one, because it's my definitive Krypton. I think the latter half is so solid and exactly what I want to see out of a Superman story. And it just makes me excited to check out the rest of the series, that maybe this will become my favorite Superman. I don't know. But what I can say is when it comes to movies, I much prefer this over, well, the majority of the movies I've been seeing. I prefer it over, the worst of the Fleischer. Like I said, I love the 78 film. I think there are a few aspects of the 78 film kind of holding me back from saying it's my definitive Superman. I think this one gets closer to being my definitive Superman. Just has everything I could ever ask for when it comes to a perfect Superman movie.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say, if you're, when you continue the rest of the show, you're in for one hell of a ride. This isn't even the best that the show has to offer. Holy God.
I'm excited. So with that said, I think it is weird, the DVD I have, because it is one of those crappy early 2010s DVD. But it literally is just the clicky case DVD I would have had from the early 2000s, because it literally is just the full-length animated feature. It does have some special features. I didn't get a chance to look at them, but I really do have to keep this in the collection, because this is just such a special Superman movie for me that I can't get rid of it. It has to remain in the collection forever.
Right. And for me, I own this movie on a different collection. The complete Superman animated series on Blu-ray.
There you go.
Yeah, which I haven't even checked out all the special features yet, but in comparison to MAWS, fantastic release.
Yeah.
Genuinely. It has every single episode on the show, as well as some commentary on each of the episodes and tons of behind the scenes and documentary on it, which I am contemplating even getting the DVD release for the complete series sometime, because I think that there's even some commentaries on there that aren't in the Blu-ray release, so I think owning both would be worth it. And I don't even mind, because the Blu-ray release already has a ton of content on it. So either way, it's worth it. Just give the show a shot, please. I implore you.
Yeah, no, I'm totally watching the show after this. This has been so much fun. So you know what? I guess, look at this. I guess the animated stuff wasn't that bad after all. Maybe, just maybe, animation might be cinema, guys.
Just maybe.
Nah. All right. Is there anything last minute we have to say before we wrap things up?
Well, maybe animation will be good again if we didn't get those awful cartoon community members like Saberfart. True disgraces to the internet, to be honest. Maybe then animation would be more than just for stupid babies.
I think Saberfart just needs to go and get a cheeseburger with a side of breeding.
With a side of breeding, too.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode, this installment of Superman Summer. Next time, folks, we're going on a little bit of a detour. Don't worry, Superman Summer's not gone forever. We'll still be doing more Superman Summer later. But we have a certain dinosaur movie coming out soon, and I plan on doing another franchise review episode for that. So be on the lookout for that little detour.
Oh, come on. I know Papa Smurf is really old, but did you have to be that rude about him?
That's right, folks. We're doing a Smurf episode.
Yeah, on every one, this is going to be Pete.
Well, goodbye, everybody. See you next time.
Smurf out.
Just